Well, it's Sunday, and we don't typically go live on Sundays, but there was a lot that happened this afternoon. It's BRAP. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. This is our honest reactions. Emphasis on honest. We're gonna be honest here. No, this is the reaction show to the Xbox Bethesda Showcase, which just wrapped up a little while ago. And first of all, big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thanks everyone for coming by and hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Look, they showed a lot. I think that's, without being said, they definitely showed a lot of content, a lot of diverse content. Seeing some interesting opinions, thoughts on the Twitters, social media about the show. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to discuss some of the content that they showed and give you our thoughts on what Microsoft showed for the Xbox for this Xbox Bethesda Showcase. So on that note, I do want to introduce the guest here. We're going to have some of the BRAP guys joining us. We'll have some other guests coming in and out to discuss the show. And first and foremost, I do want to introduce first-time guests here. We have Crusader from the TXR podcast. Crusader, what's up, man? Welcome to BRAP, sir. Great to have you on. And we did a show together with Mooch.
Yeah, I met BRAP like a week ago.
Yeah, we did.
On what was it? Crossfire.
Yeah, it was on Crossfire. Yes, we did actually meet a week ago. Yeah, this is true.
This is it's good to be on. Was happy to, do live reactions to the shows with you with Mooch. That was really a lot of fun. Excited to talk about it today.
Absolutely, and I gotta say that really was a fun show. I think having Crap Gamer there on camera actually helped me get through the show a little bit more, digest it a little bit easier for me at least. Given his facial expressions, kind of funny. So, but no, man, great to have you on, Crusader. And then this gentleman is no stranger as a guest. We have Game Logic joining us. What's up, Game Logic?
What's up, BRAP? How you doing, man?
I am doing well, sir. Doing very well, I should say. So, all right, I'm going to drop a link here in the live chat. Please, everyone, retweet the link if you don't mind. I really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Also, please hit that like button as well. Definitely appreciate the support as always. All right. So let's just dive in head first here. So Microsoft had their 95-minute Xbox Bethesda Showcase. They showed a lot of games, and we saw Starfield finally, which was great. I was excited to see that. There's some other cool games in there. There's that, oh God, now the game's drawing a blank, but I'll remember at some point. Eberron Shadow Legacy, which is a game that I thought looked pretty cool. There were some other announcements there that I thought were pretty big. The Kojima thing being there, I thought was huge. Even though we don't, shout out to Jeff Grubb who kind of broke this story a year ago that Kojima was going to be working on a game with Microsoft. That is official now. Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which is a game that's coming on Xbox. Looks like it's potentially an Xbox, maybe console exclusive. It's the latest game from Team Ninja. It is a monster slasher set in feudal Japan. And so I thought those were some of the cool announcements. But they did definitely show a lot of content, a lot of stuff going into Game Pass, which I'm frankly not surprised. I mean, I think obviously they're going to do or show things that are going to be on the Game Pass to help bolster the value proposition of that service. But I want to go to... I'm going to go to you, Crusader, first time guest here, because we talked a lot about the show. You have seemingly changed your score that you gave it.
Yeah.
So tell us, so what did you think of the show, and then why did you change your score?
Yeah. So I'll tell my original score first. My original score was, and I gave it two scores. I gave a personal one for games that I was interested in, and then an overarching one as to like how a more broader general audience, including like people that don't have my tastes in games. And I gave it for myself originally a C+ for me, and a B, a flat B for just like a general community. I did increase that by a notch for each, so I'm up to a B- for myself and a B+ for the general community. And it came down to like there was a game there for literally everyone. Like something there for everyone, and that's why I give it a B+ for the everyone. For me, I think the biggest thing that kept it from being an A, like blow me away, because like Starfield blew me away. I'm a Bethesda nut. But the biggest thing that kept it from blowing me away was the lack of like first party, and that came down to the fact that it was focused completely within the next 12 months. I thought it was very neat that they did that, but I think that because this fall is very light from first party, the first time they're trying this, they should have done 18 months and they should have included next fall. But you know, I did generally enjoy a lot of what was shown. There's a lot that I'm gonna play. Like I'm gonna play Diablo 4. I'm gonna play the Erebon Shadow Legacy. I'll probably play the Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Starfield's going to consume my life. I say Diablo 4 because Diablo 4 I'm gonna play. I'll probably play that Minecraft strategy game with my friend. He and I really like strategy games. That Aura game, the 4X turn-based Civilizations game. I have thousands of hours in Civilizations, so like that's huge for me. So you know, there was a lot for me, and it was a good showcase. Mostly well paced, but you know, the lack of the big first party hitters was probably the thing that hurt it the most for me.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on the lack of the first party hitters. I think, again, I said this on not Crossfire, but Mooch's live stream, that I felt like, you know, they kind of set the expectation with, you know, the you know, having a first party release. And again, I understand that there's development time. I get that, but you know, and Game Logic and I have talked a lot about this on the show. You know, 2018 is when they announced the acquisitions. Here we are in 2022. And we're still waiting for, you know, some of these acquisitions to bear fruit. I totally get it takes time, but like I said on Mooch's show, I think Microsoft has really kind of set the bar high with expectations in terms of them coming out and saying, okay, you know, first party games every quarter. And then I always go back to the marketing of the Xbox Series X. Starfield was the first game that made me think, yes, this is what I want to see on a Series X, or what the Series X is capable of. And I have shared with the listeners in the past my historic perspective on the console hardware with regards to Xbox, and that Xbox has always done, well, I should say always, but with the OG Xbox in particular, they really did a great job of showcasing games that that really took advantage of the hardware and kind of spoke to the messaging that they put out there. And but before I get into the rest of the panel and their thoughts here, I do want to introduce some of the other another guest here and a BRAP panel member who just joined us. But first, I want to go to the Mooch. Mooch, what's up, man? Long time no see, right?
What's up, buddy? It has been a minute. Make sure you guys can hear me all right.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, it took a minute. It was nice. I'm glad you kind of did this, BRAP. Give me a chance to, after we did our long stream, to be able to just kind of read Twitter. I went through everything. I looked at the mass comments that are kind of going on. And yeah, I'll wait until you go down the.
Did you get that drink? But, I want to ask you. Did you get that drink?
I did. Yes, I am. I'm having my bourbon. Great, now we're ready to go. So yeah, I'm a little bit more open to discussing a little bit more of the opinions, because I wanted to see what the community was thinking too, and I had just heard what Crusader was saying. So I'll let you get to B Money, and then yeah, I'm ready to kind of chime in a little bit here.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to introduce B Money. B, what's up, man?
What's going on, fellas?
Oh, B, you know, B, I'm going to save your opinion last because I was surprised, and I won't reveal what you said in the BRAP TM, but I was surprised by your comment in the BRAP TM, but we'll get to that here shortly, man. But great to see you, B. All right, so we got, you know, Crusader gave us our thoughts on kind of why he's modified his score since the show that we had with you, Mooch. I want to go to Game Logic. Logic, what were your thoughts of the show, man?
Well, I guess so far I'm at 5 different ways you can take it. So my score for the show, just about the show as a bit of PR content, of marketing content, is I'm at a 72. You know, there's other perspectives. You know, scores might be higher or lower. You know, one take is to kind of think about where the company is in terms of its, you know, what could the company do. You know, to me, this showcase was a confidence restoration showcase. That was its strategic importance. That's why it should have existed. And to a certain extent, there's already been a whiff, right, for this fall. And so it was a matter of what did the show do to restore confidence about and inform the consumer base what the content was that they would have available this fall. So probably from that perspective, my score would have probably been lower. Did they effectively show an intention to return to green? My score for that might be a touch bit higher. And by that, I mean, the other thing I was looking for them to convey to me in this show was what are the 23 studios doing? What is the intention and the maneuvering to deliver on the potential that they have, and are they measuring up and truing up from that perspective? Then it was a matter of where it hit with me as a consumer. Personally, that score would have also probably been lower. And then lastly, kind of where does it leave them in terms of industry positioning? And primarily what I was looking at from that perspective was what does it look like as they go head to head with the other console vendors, gaming vendors in the space this holiday season. And to me, again, they're still probably coming in lower than that 72.
Okay. And I think you gave the show, so I think you said you gave the show a 6 out of 10, is that?
No, the show's a 72 for me. So
72, I'm sorry, 72, yeah.
Right around your 7 out of 10, very, very similar.
Yeah, which I think I've been seeing from a lot of, I've been seeing that quite a bit from some people on social media, if you want, if you're following those things, where it seems like 7 out of 10 is kind of the consensus for the most part, I think. But, Camelot, you bring up some great points that I do want to go back to about the positioning, Microsoft's positioning against the other two console manufacturers, right? And kind of like the pipeline, right? Like Crusader talked about this on Mooch's show, where maybe they should have, put things that are not just, not pigeonhole things to 12 months, but maybe 18 months further down the road to kind of give us even more insight, or maybe even a longer roadmap into what they have coming down the pipeline. But we'll get to those here in a second. So I want to go to Mooch. Mooch, I was just on your show. We talked about it. For those who didn't tune into your show, what are your thoughts? Have your thoughts changed? Your opinions changed at all about the show?
Not drastically in the past, 25, 30 minutes. I will say that, we were making a lot of comparisons to No Man's Sky with Starfield, and now there's a lot of people I actually just DM'd you someone that put a side-by-side of the latest No Man's Sky versus what we're seeing with Starfield. And, listen, I'll be playing Starfield. I'll definitely be giving it a shot. But, when it comes down to it, this was the big bonanza. So regardless of what you thought about the 95-minute show, Starfield was the star of the show. I believe that was the creme de la creme. And I think when it comes down to it, it kind of felt a little bit less as I'm sitting here and digesting it, and I'm watching a lot of video. I'm not just taking people's opinions, and then I'm just looking at video. They showed there was one person who actually highlighted a point where the protagonist walked into a room, and there was somebody doing some sort of a mission where they were kind of confiscating a device, and they shot the individual in the back. There was no reaction from that one AI. Like, you literally just stood completely still while they were getting shot. And then there's a couple of side-by-sides with the latest, again, with No Man's Sky. And, the fact that you have to resource different or mine different resources and travel to so many planets. And No Man's Sky also has the generated planets, which is what Starfield's going to have, which I applaud on both sides. When it comes down to it, I guess I'm asking myself this question, and I'm asking the panel, and I'm asking the chat. Did what we see look like a next-gen game? Did it look like that next gravitation to an only Xbox Series X, a 12 teraflop machine, a we eat monsters for breakfast type of thing? And the more I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing it. Now, granted, the game's not out. They still have it looks like they're going to have, just under a year left. I would assume this thing's probably going to come out somewhere between March and May of 23. That's my guess. So I think that when it comes down to it, BRAP, after digesting a bit, the smaller games, I didn't really care for as much. The indie games, that goes for PlayStation or Xbox's showings. They always have a little bit of filler in there. Didn't care so much for that. I thought the real winner today, and I said it on the show, I'll say it again here, I thought the real winner that nobody's talking about is Redfall. I think Redfall was a really, really fun one.
Mooch, the real winner was crap on camera, man.
Well, crap on camera wins, absolutely. Yeah,
that was actually quite entertaining.
Yeah, he would win. He would win the Oscar as far as I'm concerned. But I got to tell you, I do think that Redfall was something that I've always had kind of shelved.
Yeah,
and it came to the forefront. Starfield again is gonna hit to a certain category of folks. I also want to reiterate, me and Crap were going back and forth, and Crap's gonna join us soon, so I can't wait to have him on. But like he's always been saying, you know, I'll be honest with you, this is gonna be Skyrim in space. Personally, and I said this to Crusader, this looked more like a Fallout in space. So, you know, it just had a little bit more of that Fallout vibe. I could see where somebody may make a case for Skyrim, but Fallout's what stuck out for me. And again, BRAP, it was okay. It was good. It was good. I thought the show was good. It wasn't great. And I said that. I've said that for the past couple of weeks. I still stand behind. We were giving it a letter grade. I said C. If you want to go 7 out of 10, that's fine. If we want to go numerical, but I just really think at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, Xbox really had to do a good show. We said this in the pre-show. This was Xbox's push for people who have expiring Game Pass subscriptions to re-up. And mine ends at the end of the year without a Starfield coming this year. Of course, I didn't see anything that would necessarily make me re-up when my dollar deal is up. I'll probably hold out. I probably won't resubscribe. And then when something happens where we get a Starfield, I'll either do the 1 month, or if there's going to be a plethora of different games that kind of all release in one big pile up, then maybe do a 3 month or a 6 month or do the whole year. So I guess I'm kind of in that world right there, but there was a large amount in the beginning to middle part, except for Redfall, which I thought was a shining star. Was really just kind of a lackluster. Yeah. It really I saw a lot of people in our chat, BRAP, and a lot of people on the internet saying, you know, they were just doing the snooze emoji. So they lost
I did see
people.
That.
And we thought this was going to be hit after hit after hit. And it kind of was a hit, and then it was a snooze, and then it was a hit at the end. So I think that it kind of worked out in that retrospect for me.
Yeah.
So only on this show could I possibly walk in leaning back and having takeaways from Starfield and from the Microsoft show, only to hear Mooch's take, and now I'm angry and leaning forward on behalf of Starfield and Microsoft.
That's great. By the way, speaking of Crap Gamer, Crap's just joined us. Crap, unfortunately, we can't have you on camera. And trust me, if you guys
Crap, we gave you the Oscar, by the way, Crap. You won the Oscar for
you won the Oscar.
Hey, nice.
Yeah. So
I humbly accept. You know, I'm holding it up right now. It's
Crap. You're using your cam mic again.
Am I using it again? Damn it!
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
1 second.
All right, we'll get
talk amongst yourselves. Hold on, let me fix this.
Talk amongst yourselves, please.
No, but you know, we'll get to Starfield, because I am seeing those comparisons. I saw somebody compare Starfield to what's it called? God, why am I forgetting the game?
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. Thank you, Booch. I'm getting old. Old age is not.
BRAP, if you don't mind, I want to ask Game Logic. So, what did I say that made you feel the opposite of what you were saying prior? Because I did hear your. I thought you were actually majority on path with where I was actually when I came into the show and listening.
I kind of am. I mean, and maybe these might be some nits. I mean, my thing about the show overall is I don't think that the show, in terms of like excitement and what you mentioned about people saying that it was a snooze fest, I don't feel like it was that far and away different than last week's State of Play.
State of Play is a completely different animal, though. That was a third-party showing outside of PSVR 2, so it's really not an apples-to-apples comparison.
Okay. However, that doesn't make that any different.
Sure, it does. Sure, it does.
It makes it different in terms of what your expectations were. But if I'm just laying down a bar and saying what excited me across the two shows, I don't think that anything was different. And that State of Play is what it was, but that comment is kind of based on an assumption that there's going to be something later this summer or later in the year that's going to have some other things that triple out. But potentially, I mean, I'm sure if you guys have insider information, I'm talking about.
Well, it's not insider information. I'm just using historic, timelines. I mean, when has Sony not had their own dedicated first-party show? They've always had one. If you want to say that Sony's first-party show is 40 minutes versus the 95 minutes, I mean, we kind of dissected that pretty well too. And I was talking this with Crap and BRAP, when we were ending the show on my channel, was that, you have 95 minutes. That's a very long duration, right? But when you have we were looking at the clock. The thing started 1 p.m. Eastern time. It was 1:40. It was 1:40 p.m. Eastern time. That's 40 minutes had gone by, and we hadn't seen anything outside of, very small games, nothing really, really big coming from the show. Granted, Forza was in there, but I mean, other than that, it took all the way till Todd Howard came out in that vintage coat. And so, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's not an apples to apples comparison. A State of Play has been going on every 3 months religiously or so, and they've been doing these little, just keep the gamers, it's like a little bit of food here and there, just keep you eating a little bit, keep it so your belly isn't empty. But really, the State of Play that we saw, Yoshida came out and said, this is a third party show outside of PSVR 2, which it really was. So I would compare this show with what's about to come. But I wouldn't exactly say that the Xbox show 95 minutes is supposed to compete with a 20-minute, 23-minute State of Play that was third-party primarily.
What I'm saying is, fact of the matter, fact of the data is that at this point, we know what Xbox's slate for the holiday season is. I don't know what Sony's slate is for the holiday season in its entirety.
Correct.
And so I don't. Again, if I look at, a matter of what was exciting me, where I stand today is that the slate across all of the console vendors, I'm not particularly excited about this holiday season slate.
That's fair. Now.
So then the other thing that I was concerned about is, again, to me, Xbox walked into this show already kind of having whiffed for the holiday season, right? And so it was really a matter of, what could they pull out? Like I said before in my session was, what could they pull out that showed a return to green? And so what they could have done to me would have been to have Forza Motorsport come out this fall, but now we see that it's coming out next year in 2023, I guess spring. So just in terms of expectations out of this show, and the comment that I expected a ton of surprise hits. I didn't walk into the show expecting that, because that would have meant that these 23 studios would have had something amazing to show across the board. And I just didn't think that was a reasonable expectation. Not saying that the end result wasn't great. I'm just saying, given what I most recently knew, I just didn't walk in with that expectation to walk out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is the mic better?
Yes,
Hello?
Crap.
100%
All
crap.
right,
Crap. Give us Go ahead, Crap.
You know what? Listen, I went into the show expecting huge things, right? I didn't expect Fable. I didn't expect, Perfect Dark, but I did expect some stuff. I did expect Avowed. I expected Hellblade 2. I expected Contraband. I mean, we saw that last year, and now that's gone completely silent. I expected some things that we didn't get. Overall, I have to look at it, and like I said on your show, Mooch, I have to look at this and I go, okay, overall they had a good variety of content. For me personally, it wasn't the best content that I personally would want to play, because most of that stuff I don't care about. I wanted the big bangers. But if you look at it as okay, if all that stuff they announced comes out in the next 12 months, it is Starfield, it is Redfall, it is Forza, it is, all that stuff. So that is good for a 12-month period. But if you look at 2022, it's probably weakest and that's saying something for Xbox than it ever has been. It's not a good 20, it's not been a good year. I thought Starfield, thank God, saved the day, because that game looked absolutely incredible, and you could just tell that that's going to be the next big thing. That's going to be huge. People are going to, if you don't have a PC or Xbox, I feel bad for you. I would get one, because that game looks amazing. It just really kind of did everything for me. It checked all the boxes. It looks like it's going to be. I might not get into all the complexities. I guess you're going to have kind of the options to do some of that stuff, whatever. But to me, that's a super hardcore RPG. The fact that you can do stuff that you can do in Mass Effect a little bit. I like what they did there. I like what they showed. I understand that people are saying, well, it looks like, cross between Fallout and Skyrim or whatever. Or I think it looked more like Skyrim, but with guns. So I'm going to go into it with that, as long as there's no mutants walking around and I got to scrounge for 2 bullets, but have to kill 15 things.
Collect bottle caps.
Yeah, right? I'll be good. That's the reason why I don't like Fallout. I think those would probably be decent games, but it's scrounge for 2 bullets to kill 15 enemies, right? And it's I don't know. That's not my bag, but I thought that game looked good. I actually thought, surprisingly, Redfall looked amazing. The stuff that they did show looked good. Like I thought Forza looked amazing. I thought the Hot Wheels stuff looks fun. I just think that like most people, I was a little bit underwhelmed from the first party themselves because everybody's saying that all their first parties having problems. Their first parties having problems, and I'm like, are they though? I mean, it's usual for stuff like this to pop up here and there, but now it seems like a lot of these things are like the State of Decay. That's nowhere. Right, Everwild, that's nowhere. Hellblade 2, that's nowhere. Project Mara, that's nowhere. Perfect Dark, Fable, Avowed, Contraband. I just named 8 games that were previously announced, some in 2019, right? And we're, halfway through 2022 and we haven't seen anything from them. So I think that it's, that on that aspect is disappointing, and I wish that they would have did better. But I could tell, I understand also the argument that some people are going to be extremely happy. I give it a B-. I thought they showed a lot of stuff, but some of it was boring to me. Overall though, I thought it was a decent show. But man, like, wow, why wouldn't you show a little bit beyond that, or the one more thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I thought the same thing.
One thing I want to alibi back on is, and Crap Gamer brought it up, and I want to agree with them there. The internet consensus or feeling that the game is Fallout 4 in space or Skyrim in space or whatever, that's just something that I heavily disagree with, based today on that we saw the ship construction piece and the fact that you would be able to land at multiple areas on the planet. One of the things on the different planets. So one of the things that I had been looking for was, I was very concerned when on the walk up to this about, what the number of planets was going to be. We heard that it was 1,000, but I was also going to be very bothered if there were 1,000 planets, but you could only land at like one hub location, right? Which is kind of a Destiny 2 paradigm, which I get it. Destiny 2 is not really space exploration. It's kind of this facade, right? That gives you the feeling that you're traveling around space. And I thought that's maybe where they were going to be heading with Starfield, but they showed today that you could land on multiple locations so that you would have 1,000 planets with the potential for multiple landing sites on those planets. And so you might have 3, 4, 6, 8 different locations on the planet, right? Being a multiple to the 1,000 planets. So I just don't really agree with the notion that it's Fallout in space. I feel like it definitely has a more expansive foundation than that. And several different, complementing gameplay mechanics that are going to come into play as well. Again, giving the player a ton of provenance to kind of write their story, about where they want to head and how they want to head through the campaign, as well as all of the side content and just your ability to do the things that you want to do. Now, what I don't know is, does it have those kind of MMO-like elements? Like we mentioned when you went into the cave and you were kind of mining for elements. That's I've played Star Citizen and I've played EVE Online, and in Star Citizen, for a chunk of time I was just a miner, right? And that was kind of my career path, and that's kind of what I spent a lot of time doing. So I don't know if you're going to have as much meat there for those type of elements to engage in trade and things like that. And I certainly don't expect an MMO-like content landscape. It's just a curiosity about whether or not that's just going to be a very simplistic game mechanic, or if it's going to kind of expand and take you off into additional vectors of player provenance.
Yeah. I got a question for the panel here, mainly for Crusader. This is what's just, again, you almost need more than 30 minutes to digest. But at the end of the day, when I'm listening to what Game Logic just said, one of my issues is this game was supposed to release in November. Okay, so here we are. It's June, middle of June. This game was supposed to be wrapping up, going to its polished mode, and then we're supposed to see Todd Howard in that same jacket holding up a "We've Gone Gold." The fact that we all have so many more questions on the game, when I understand they needed more time, it looks like they're going to be doing spring or late spring of 23. That's fine. But at the end of the day, there's so many questions, and I didn't see enough. I saw some of the RPG elements come to play with the, the selection that all those different skill trees, etc., that came up, different things that popped up. And pardon my terminology if I'm not 100% here. But here we are. The game was supposed I still ask people all the time. I'm like, and I think I asked Crusader on my show. I said, and I'll ask you guys, what's the game about? The point of the matter is we got a 15-minute showing. This game was supposed to come out in November.
It's about space exploration, man. Come on.
For real, a serious answer. They gave a not insignificant section on the campaign, right? The campaign is about you and I'm not saying it sounds super innovative, right? Campaign is about you going around the galaxy, hunting for artifacts, trying to uncover a mystery that, as far as I can tell, is about the origins of the universe and expanding the universe. What I expect right now, just as a whiff of a prediction, is that at the completion of the campaign, you're going to have a thing that opens up that reveals that there's a lot more than those 1,000 planets to explore. You know, going back to that tagline of,
and don't get me wrong, Game Logic, I applaud you, because that was actually very well said. And I think that that was also maybe what the actual developers intended us to get. But I think that, you know, I was really looking forward to, hey, this is me, Todd Howard. I'm so excited about this game. This is Starfield. And then literally take us and say, this is you, this is your character, this is what you do, this is where you came from, this is what your objective is. The fact that we left, and there's so many, right now it's all over the internet. If you don't believe me, don't leave the show, but just make a new tab or look over. Everybody's making very close references to No Man's Sky. And if the only separation between the two is the fact of, you know, Gamer Logic doing his due diligence and saying what he interpreted from the show and what the story base is going to be, the rest of it just looked like mining, going to different planets, and yeah, occasionally getting side quests here or there, but it didn't. Again, this is something they've been working on and has been near dear to their heart. I just thought we would see a little bit more of the story. The story was touched on. It was touched on. But out of 15 minutes, we don't get not many times during an E3 show, whatever you want to call it, Game Fest, E3. Rarely do we get a 15-minute showing of a game, and I still thought that was a little less.
Bethesda. We normally do with Bethesda's showcase.
Bethesda, yes, but not Xbox,
they usually
Sony.
do this. This is normal for them.
So one of the questions, Mooch, that I want to ask is, and you know, I respect everybody's opinions, and I respect that everybody's opinions are different. But one of my questions I want to ask is, there's been a lot of dialogue. I feel like there's been a lot of dialogue on your show and from your perspective about gameplay.
Right.
And so the format of the Starfield presentation was to lead with gameplay.
Yes.
And to answer that question. And then the question of what the story was behind it was kind of the follow-up, which, you know, is kind of burying the lead. But I just want to ask, what was more important than gameplay or campaign story? And if gameplay really was the prominent thing that everybody's been complaining about, then was it not right for them to showcase that up front and get into the mechanics and get into, again, what I mentioned, the player providence and all the choices you would have?
I can answer that quickly. Why don't we just start showing gameplay and just mute everything or not have a narrative? I mean, that's the whole point there. They did focus on the one part, but remember something, Game Logic, whether it was something we learned when we were younger in school or all the way through, you know, there's technique and then there's follow through. The technique was there, but the follow through is the story. And I've asked 3 or 4 people what the story's about, and they go space exploration.
Well, here's the thing, Mooch. I don't agree with you in that sense. Like, I think
then answer my question.
Wait.
What's it about?
Well, we don't know what it's about yet.
Well, that's what I just said.
No, but wait. But I also wouldn't, and I'm not sure if you're trying to knock the game for not showing it, but I wouldn't.
I'm gonna play it.
I guess
it's fine.
Like, yeah, I mean, I kind of got what Game Logic said in terms of like.
Yeah, and I know. I just don't want what I mentioned to be dispensed with. I told you guys what the story is about. I told you what the story, right? What the campaign is. That was Todd Howard's description. Right, and you could see that
it's a weak description. It's weak.
Sure. I just want to make sure this wasn't completely invalidated.
No, it's not. It's not an in-depth description, but it is a description. You know, Mooch. So we did get a morsel, and I do think they'll show us at a later date. You got to remember, this game's not coming out till when? Next November?
Well, probably spring of next year, but it was supposed to come out in
spring of next year.
Months.
I'm sorry, spring of next year. So we may get like another showcase of, and actually we may hear more Tuesday too. We may
maybe
learn a little more, but I will say this. For me, I wanted to see more gameplay and actually see the game and what this game was going to look like. Some of the elements of this game that they showed, like that was more. I was more focused on like that than actually the campaign stuff because, like, you know, for me it's like, go ahead, Crusader.
I was just like, let me jump in real quick. I think the big thing that is different with Starfield is that it is a new IP, right? Because this is very, very similar to how they introduced every one of their games. Skyrim was introduced as the dragons are back, and that's it. But because we knew about the Elder Scrolls, in our heads we have more, right? Fallout was introduced as your kid is gone. And you wake up and your kid is gone.
Where's Josh?
Right? Yeah. And we didn't know any more than that for a long time. And this is, again, it's typical Bethesda, just them. They show the game and, like, it comes out in, like, 7 months. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit longer now because of the delay. But they're known for, like, showing a bit of everything when they first show the game. They show you that they say that, hey, the story is you are joining Constellation, a set of space explorers, and you're looking for these artifacts that there's a deep mystery around, right? That's the same as, hey, like every other Elder Scrolls game, you're a prisoner who wakes up and you find out the dragons are back, because that's how they described Skyrim the first time we saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only difference there being, no one complained about this with Skyrim because we all know the Elder Scrolls, right? Like, there's 4 games that came before Skyrim.
Great example right there, and that's what I was just telling your boy Roy. He goes, well, that's like saying Elden Ring. He said here, he goes, that's saying negative. It's a negative on Elden Ring for not telling us the story. Elden Ring is basically Dark Souls 4, open world. So I agree with you.
Also, it doesn't tell you the story in game.
But I also think
right.
But I also think think for like someone like me, there's obvious Bethesda bias in me. Like I will let everyone know that. Like I am pro Bethesda.
Everybody has a bias, absolutely.
Look, yeah, and so for me, it's like, you know, I kind of know what, like, not that I know what to expect, but I kind of do because I played so many of these games. It's like I'm not too worried about it. For me, again, I just wanted to see gameplay. I wanted to see what this game looked like, right?
And we saw a lot more than people are letting on. You do have to pause the screens, though, when they're at different points. Like, we know all about that there's going to be an actual cooking system that you learn different, like, recipes for, and there's an entire skill tree for it. But Todd didn't say that. You have to read the descriptions of the shit that came up on screen, right? That 15 minutes of gameplay is going to be taken down and dissected from here and back again, and people like Mr. Matty Plays are going to tell you all about it. And, you know, the biggest thing is going to be that we'll know in the next couple months, because, like, again, with Skyrim, I don't even know that Alduin was mentioned outside of just a name in the cinematic trailer for Skyrim until, like, a few months later. You know, like, we'll know a lot more before launch.
I mean,
they showed us a bit of everything about the game today. They showed us a bit of the crafting. They showed us a bit of the skill trees. They showed us a bit of the combat. They showed us a bit of the story. They gave us a little like serving of each, like a little platter. And then as we get closer and closer and closer, those little entrees, or like tests, or like sample foods that we got, like at the grocery store, we're actually gonna get like the here's the full meal of this part of the game. Here's like the full, like, cinematic story trailer.
I think Crusader nailed that. Actually, I do think that we're gonna get piecemeal this, but I mean, I'm again, as you guys are talking, I'm just scrolling through Twitter and I'm just reading, you know, the comments that are coming through from all sides. And it's the thing about it is a lot of people feel like it's not that next generational leap. If you guys do, that's fine. That's something I won't.
Agree with that. But
a lot of people don't agree with that.
Yeah,
though.
Mooch. Let me. I want to get to B Money here because I want
to hear B too.
Yeah, I'm really interested in to get his take, because B, you said something to me in the BRAP, or not to me, but to the guys, the BRAP DM, about this show, and I was like kind of surprised. But give us your thoughts, man.
For me, the show was okay. Like, it wasn't good, it wasn't great. It was okay. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I came in with different expectations, I guess. You know what I mean? We saw Hellblade was the first game they announced before the console was even like a thing, really. They announced Hellblade at the Game Awards when they announced the console, right? Where's the game at?
Yeah,
like Crab mentioned, there's been 8 other games that have already been announced. We didn't see it all. Like, I understand that they wanted to show their 12-month rollout, or, you know, their game plan for the next 12 months, but that wasn't what they did last year, and that wasn't what they, you know, that mindset was not presented to the fans. That we're just showing games that's going to be rolling out in the next 12 months. So the expectation for people is, there's going to be some big games here. stuff that we really want to see, stuff that we haven't seen yet. For me, like, they showed like 4 games that I cared about, and other than that, it was okay.
Yeah.
Like, so, everybody's hyped for Starfield, and when I saw it, I was just like, okay.
So, B, you didn't think Starfield was like? I thought it looked next gen. Like, I to me that was like, this is what Microsoft needs to show.
Oh no, to me it doesn't look next gen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't really see it.
I mean,
BRAP, check your DM too, BRAP. I sent you a bunch of things from all sorts of different people, but I'll let B finish. It looked very good, but it didn't look like the I eat breakfast monsters for breakfast, lunch, and dinner kind of thing. But go ahead, B. I apologize.
Go ahead,
help me out, guys, and maybe B, while you're saying yours too, what about it doesn't look next gen?
I mean, for me, graphically, it doesn't look next gen.
Yeah, but I mean, describe that. I mean, I don't understand.
The player models don't look like they should be, like they would only be on a next gen console. To me, you know what I mean? Like when I look at other games that have come out, even games that were on last gen, it's like those player models don't look as good as games that are on last gen.
Okay, so you're saying the player models, their animations, and I guess the texture maps that overlay them, you're saying don't look equivalent to other next gen games that we're seeing right now.
Right.
I just put a picture in our chat right now that in the Discord. I believe everyone can see it.
I thought
there's the character models there. They don't like, it's what B's saying. They don't look super impressive, and that's from Nibble. He's the one that's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. This isn't like a fanboy thing.
Those player models are like just single shots of the character. So to me, like, those should be super impressive, and they don't look impressive to me.
Right. So one question on these. I don't know if these are screenshots or what. Are these stills from the site?
Yeah, they're stills from the trailer.
Nibble's not going to take something and make fun of it. He's putting out an actual post. Like he's legit. Like that's why I'm not posting fanboy nonsense. I'm putting something that's legit out there.
I'm asking because what Crusader just said would be the thing that would cause me concern. So are they posts from the actual site? Are they assets from the site, or were they screen snaps taken during the live stream?
I believe they're screen snaps taken from the live stream.
Okay, so I mentioned this earlier today. The live stream was being live streamed at 1080p.
That doesn't look like a live stream shot at all. Those look like actual shots.
I'm pretty sure they're from the not the stream
like
one, but from the replay one.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be combative. I'm just telling you honestly. I watched the trailer.
Well, regardless, you could say whatever you want. I mean, you still get a gist from it. It's not like he's downgrading the shot. I mean, he's giving you the best shot, whatever. Even if it is from the live stream, it's. Look, you can say whatever you want. There's nothing in there that looks stupendously.
Well, Mooch, okay. So I don't think the character models. Yeah, maybe they don't look next gen. For Bethesda, it looks next gen, and we could talk.
Yeah.
That's
okay. That's fine. Yeah. I'll ride with that one.
So no, I'll say that. But the one thing that I'll say is the world, right, that I saw, that was next gen to me. So it wasn't as much the individual character models; it was the environment that those characters were in that looked next gen to me. Now, look, I mean, for Bethesda and these screenshots, I mean, look, if you go back and play Fallout 4 and B-Money, we used to make jokes about the ham faces, right, here on BRAP. These look good for Bethesda. I mean, maybe and maybe they don't look. Go ahead, man.
What we're saying is, for the Bethesda standard, these look good, but for everybody else, these look okay.
Right. For the characters, yes, I will say that. But I will say though, the world though, I was really impressed, and I wasn't expecting much from the world, considering how some of the other games look, like Fallout 4 or Skyrim. The world looked pretty good, I thought. Like, I was really surprised how good the world looked, the particle effects.
The world looked good. I'll send you something else here with some footage of it too. It looked. I mean, when you played Horizon, did you play Horizon Forbidden West?
Yes.
I mean, I thought that was also looking very good, and that's a cross-gen game.
Let's compare scale. If you're going to bring that up, let's compare scale. How many different environments did you see in Starfield today? Because Forbidden West is like 4 different environments.
Well, I only saw 4 or 5. I mean, today. I mean, I didn't count the environments.
They showed like 6 or 7 different types of planets out of the 1,000.
Yeah, and I think for me, just
the scale is what makes this next gen.
They're all. But That's like No Man's Sky. You could procedurally generate any of those things, and then it's just, you know, I mean, it's just this is the trees over there.
But I think for me though, like if I think about Bethesda games, like in Crusaders talking about scale, like these games are always big, massive, right? There's always an abundance of detail just shoved into these games, right? That you just don't see in other games. So when I saw this game, I was thinking like, okay, you know, this game might look slightly better than like a Fallout 4, right? I was blown away by the environments. I was impressed. The environments look great.
I thought it looked good, BRAP, but the thing is that because I knew this was a next gen only game, I wasn't really going into it with such low expectations as you. I was expecting this. We've seen screenshots, right? They've shown us things. So I knew what we were kind of walking into. To see it in real time play like that was impressive. But again, you know, you're walking a linear path. We were walking a linear path in the example, and the outside world looked phenomenal. You're right. But how far out into that outside world can you walk? Can you go infinite levels of just walking around forever, or is it a linear path with a beautiful landscape? We don't know.
We don't know, but I think based on like Bethesda's previous work and what Todd Howard has said about this game, I think it's probably safe to say this is not going to be a linear type game. It's going to be.
I think parts of it will be linear.
It's going to be an open world. Go ahead, Crusader.
Has there ever been a part of an Elder Scrolls game that's been linear, so to speak? Except for like maybe like 1 or 2 missions where like you go to a specific dungeon and you never go back to it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But the depth of it. If there's 75,000 planets, I mean, are they all going to be like that? Who knows? We don't know. You don't really know.
Certainly not. But
right,
like,
exactly.
There will certainly be hub areas that are more important than the rest. I think it would be almost idiocy to think otherwise.
I agree with that, Crusader.
And I think people are going to blow the 1,000. I think that Todd Howard's "These are the 1,000 planets" is his. This is 16 times the detail, or you know, any number of those. But like when I'm looking at the actual scale of, I'm a person who loves Bethesda games. I put 400 hours into Skyrim this year in a modded playthrough, right? I love those games, and this looks like an enormous step up from literally anything they've done, and it is absolutely what I want to see from them.
That's fine. If we're starting the level down here and you guys want to say now we're up here, that's fine. What I'm saying to you is as we progress into the next year and we start seeing what you're going to see on other games coming from third party and maybe even Sony, and they're up here, you guys can't see my hand continuing to go upward. But well, that's fine. You guys are starting, you've both said the same thing. You said, well, coming from Fallout 4, this was impressive. But when you look at where other things are going to go next year, you may then go back to this and go,
But I also think when you think about like just Bethesda games in general, this is a big leap for them. I think you know with what we saw.
Sure. Again, I think we all agree.
But it's that. Also
I think that's the problem though. Like you keep referring to like all the other games,
right?
Yeah.
Well, all right. You have to think about scale.
D gets what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I was going to say scale. Go ahead. Go ahead, Crusader.
You can't do the same thing in every game. God of War is probably going to be one of the best looking games for the next 5 years when it comes out. And you want to know, even though it's cross-gen, you want to know why? Because for the most part, its levels are like smallish and linear. They can put more punch into each individual
absolutely.
asset.
I get that, yeah.
And you're not going to get that in something here. Like it's not going to happen. And it's silly to think that it will happen. Even Horizon Forbidden West, they do a lot of things to make it look as good in your periphery. Like they do all of that fog, right? Like, do you guys remember seeing all of the early all the early stuff? If you look at that game and you're up high, you'll just see a massive fog layer over the map. And that's how these companies have done this for generations and generations. You know, and this is a game that's going to have significantly more different like areas. We've already been introduced to I think 3 or 4 today, and we've seen them talk about in the concept art. Like they've shown us the other areas, they've talked about them that we're also going to go to. Like we didn't see that big like the city that sits on top of the water. They showed us that in the concept art, and they talked about what that planet is and like what you do there. We didn't see that place today. And so when it comes down to it, you're not going to be able to do those same kind of things in a game of this kind of scale. So I'm not expecting, like I would never expect like the level of character fidelity in a Bethesda game, because it's literally not going to happen.
I mean, this is just the thing about just the different vectors that our conversations come from. I think for the vast majority of the market, for the vast majority of the Xbox consumer base, Starfield will be just fine. I think for those of us who are comparing the upper crust and the elite 1% of the gaming market and comparing them against each other and saying one is in and one is out, I think when you get to that level of fidelity, sure, there's a point where you can draw these differences. I don't think for the vast majority of people they're going to be slicing things that fine. For me personally, Starfield, just kind of like Crusader was mentioned, Starfield does certain things that are appealing to me and that would cause me to not be as concerned about the level of graphical fidelity, right? I put a lot of value on player provenance, a lot of value on choice. Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, those things are, the standard SIE, near linear wide path kind of thing where your choice is fairly vectored, right? I mean, there's only, you're going to get through the story from beginning to end. A Bethesda game, in this case, a Starfield, should be offering you more things than that and more options, and there are certain things that it's going to offer me that are appealing that don't make me concerned about the comparisons of graphical fidelity from this game to something that's on the PlayStation 5. That's just my personal perspective.
To me, I wasn't even directly comparing the games to anything that's on PlayStation. I'm just saying from a next generation standard, it doesn't look impressive to me. So like for me, Starfield doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? Like I had some interest in it when they first showed it. It was like, oh, okay, they got somebody walking up a ladder, getting in a spaceship. But when they actually detailed the actual gameplay today and what the game is about, like it doesn't interest to play Outer World. It's done without.
AB, your bot, man. I think we may have lost B.
I think so many people are on YouTube. It's like I think everything is like
B.
I really think it's like really like weighing
B,
down.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's back, but he said something about Outer Worlds, I think.
Well, I'd be furious if those were the kind of things that we would get looking out of like Hellblade, right? Because that's a game that I actually expect to have massive graphical fidelity because it's a mostly linear game. Like I'm not expecting Avowed to look at like in the same way that like I expect Compulsion's game to be super art styled and specific, but I don't expect and I expect that out of Ninja Theory, but I'm not expecting that here just because it is a different style of game. And the differences I saw from this versus Fallout 4, 76, Skyrim, the differences are absolutely astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've been like very wow. I mean, you saw me, Mooch, like on the live, like
no. Listen,
I mean, like this is the first time. This is the first time I've been wowed by a Bethesda game in quite some time. Probably since Morrowind, when Morrowind first came on console, I was like, holy shit, like, how are they doing this? Like,
I'll blame myself because I can't remember who said it, so I'll blame myself. We kind of went off on a tangent on graphical capability, but it also comes down to the game itself. Is this a game for hundreds of thousands of people or people to really subscribe to Game Pass? When you look at it, that's fine. I think Game Logic did a good job of doing a narration. Well, hear me out for a second. Yeah. Did a good job of doing the narration. But really, and I got news for you. You don't believe me, guys. Just go on Twitter. Everyone's making this to a No Man's Sky comparison. No Man's Sky didn't blow people's doors off with the actual what you do day-to-day operations and gameplay, right? It's not like 70 million people picked up No Man's Sky. Now, did more people pick it up as the game went on? Yeah, but the number's still, low compared to blockbuster hits that Bethesda's used to. So again, now the question is this enough of a game to be Microsoft's front runner for going into the next 12 months? For this panel, it sounds like it may. But for many others, it's again, guys, poll the gaming community. Don't poll me. It doesn't matter. But I'm saying like it doesn't. I'm just a little bit in that like I don't mind playing a game like this, but I can tell you right now I would not, and I know Crusader's going to put 7,000 hours into it. I know he will. This is a game that I would probably play for about 20 to 40 hours, and I'll probably be done with it the same way I played. Like a No Man's Sky, not quite No Man's Sky. There's more to it than No Man's Sky. So I'm not going to go ahead and belittle it like that. There's a lot more to it than that. But I just, for me to go out there and mine, and then have the creator thing where you create on the side and make your little space base, it's like, I don't, that's not necessarily my bag. I mean, I'll play with it, I'll dabble, but this isn't something that, and I wonder how many people are going to be into that mining for resources and gathering this and looking out into 40,000 different planets for a piece of data. You got to remember, this is something that's not, when you hear what Crusader said when they were mentioning Skyrim, they were like, the dragons are back, or whatever the slogan was. I got news for you. I mean, you just put dragons in anything, people still want Scalebound. They don't even know what that was about. So I mean, you put a dragon into something, it's different than having something necessarily that's going to be, going out there and destroying 75 different odd-looking blocks for resources.
The one commonality that we've seen with all games coming out since you saw the Summer Games Fest is space. Space is a hot commodity. Look at all the space games we're getting.
It is, but look at the ones you're referring to. Those are all linear, all Dead Space looking. The Callisto Protocol. But action, horror. That's different than this.
I think people are getting too hung up on the comparisons to No Man's Sky, because I think that they did show that, like with the big settlements and stuff like that there is a massive difference, and that at its core this is still a Bethesda RPG. You're going to go to these settlements, you're going to pick up side quests that involve people and different relics and different like stories and different factions, and like that there will be a big massive overarching plot, which is the one thing that No Man's Sky doesn't have. So I think the better way to say that is that this is like Fallout with No Man's Sky on the side. Does that make sense?
Okay.
From what I saw, that's what I get.
That's fine. I'll buy into that.
I think my concern is, and I'm guilty of it too, right? But Starfield is its own thing. It is charting new ground in a lot of ways for Bethesda. The way of Twitter, to go back to your question, Mooch, about what is everybody's take on it, and what do we extrapolate from that take? The way of Twitter is always to compare everything to something, right? As if that's a definitive binary take on its success or failure.
This has got some close comparisons in certain areas, but I agree with what Crusader said, that it's not a one-to-one.
It's not a one-to-one, right?
But it's legitimately, Ham goes, I'm afraid Mooch is scared to like the game.
I
think we've all played a game like this before, just in pieces.
But that's every. So here's the issue I have with the comparison to No Man's Sky. You can compare any game to like any other game, right? Like we're not at a point now where I think like there's going to be games that are like that are first to the scene, right? They just like they're.
But that's what the hype was with this. This was supposed to be the first to the scene. If you don't want to feel that way, or you don't,
I never got the hype. I never got the hype from them. That I got.
This was 20 years in the making. This was something that Todd Howard has a tattoo of on his back. I mean, like, this was supposed to be right. This is what they said.
No, but that's what they said. But I never thought like, oh my god, this is going to be a new genre. They're reinventing gaming. Why would you think that though?
What?
Because that's how they presented the game.
That's how they said it. That's what they've been saying. This is the latest and greatest from Bethesda. They've been working on it since 2013. Todd Howard named his kid Starfield. What do you mean?
But every gaming company does it. That's part of the marketing. But I never realistically thought this was going to be like genre defining.
Not to this extent. I mean, this is maybe because Xbox hasn't had their first party game out in a while. This has been blown up more than it should have been. That may be the case.
That may be true. That may be true. That might be the case.
And that's fine. You know what I mean, BRAP? I mean, that happens.
Yeah, but real quick, I'm going to go back to B Money, though, because B's back. So, B, you were saying something about, I forget what game it was, man.
Outer
City game. Go ahead, man.
That Starfield just probably isn't for me. And, you know what I mean? I'll just wait for Outer Worlds 2. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about building a spaceship. I don't care about building up settlements. I don't care about exploring thousands of planets and all that other shit. I just want a great story, great RPG elements. That's it, man. Like, all the other stuff for Starfield doesn't do anything for me.
Okay.
Right. And that's one of the things that I meant where I talked about it. I mean, the problem with Starfield, and you guys are circling around what is probably a good issue, which is that the marketing and the messaging on this is going to be tough because it's falling in a weird space that is somewhere between
it's in
things
space
that they've done before, Fallout and Skyrim, and a larger bit of content, like again, like a Star Citizen or an EVE Online, right? Where do you draw the line on the expectation of how much you're going to be able to explore and how much you're going to get into versus where is it going to fall into a linear story where there's really 40 missions that if you know what they are and you go through them, you will complete the campaign in a shorter amount of time. B-Money brought one thing up that I wanted to pick on about this show and kind of some of the curiosities that came up out of it for me is Obsidian. So part of the things that I thought was not so great about this show was, one of their big gets, I'm assuming that based on where it was positioned in the show and the way it was presented, was Grounded, which is a game that I've never been excited or really interested in. And then Obsidian's working on another thing called, what is it called? Pentiment?
Pentiment, yeah.
Pentiment. And I'm just kind of like, this is a great studio, and I know they're working on Outer Worlds too, but I'm like,
and Avowed.
Yeah, and maybe that's where the value add. The problem I walked away from it was, look, if these guys have spare cycles, I don't want them working on Grounded or Pentiment. Right? I mean, if there's a question about the value added content that's going into and coming out of the production pipeline, Obsidian is a star-studded studio that I would want, again, helping me return to green. And I don't quite understand what it is they're on about with spending their time on Grounded and Pentiment.
So, I mean, it's not like even close to a minority of the studios working on those. There are 12 people working on Grounded in the studio in total. And there are 25 working on Pentiment, I believe. It actually might be less than that.
It's just my statement that if I had 37 people of spare cycles, that would not be the content I would have them working
on. See, I don't know, because they're going to make those games that are for someone, right? And would those extra people actually help in those other games? Because a lot of their positions might be duplicates.
I'm not necessarily saying that they have to be working on Avowed or Outer Worlds 2. They could be working on something else. I mean, and this just goes to the question of one of the things that we've brought up over the last couple of weeks, this statement by Matt Booty of, the studios are going to be creator-led. I am absolutely certain that they're working on those games because that's what Obsidian wants to do. And there was some level of promise from Microsoft senior leadership, from Xbox senior leadership, to allow that degree of latitude. Again, but I go back to one of my concerns is the overall production pipeline, to me, isn't commensurate with what 23 studios should be pumping out for, the type of stuff that we might want from the brand. And I go back to, okay, where are my spare resources and what can I do to correct that problem? I just don't know that Grounded and Pentiment are the things that are working in the direction of correcting that problem. They're not of zero value. I completely agree. I just don't know that they would be the thing that I would want.
And Game Logic, and that goes back to my point and the issue that I've had with Microsoft. And I brought this up with Mooch, and why I was so excited, and probably why I was even extra excited for Starfield was because this goes back to the marketing that Xbox did with the Xbox Series X. This thing eats monsters, right? Monsters for breakfast, I think it was, right? And the whole 12 teraflops and velocity architecture and all that other stuff that people talked about. Yeah, like when I see some of those games, and I think Crap kind of talked about this, in Mooch's live stream, like when I see some of those games, and not that people won't like those games, I agree with you, Game Logic, that somebody will probably like that. To me, like not Avowed, but Obsidian, given their pedigree, like that's not really what I want to see from Obsidian, personally, me speaking, right? Someone else might like that, but that's not what I want to see, and that also doesn't really like tie into it eats monsters for breakfast or whatever the case is, right? Like I want to see games that really take advantage of the platform, which goes back to what I said about the original Xbox, my point on BRAP a couple weeks ago, that with the OG Xbox and even to extent the Xbox 360, when Microsoft would talk about the hardware feature sets that these consoles had, there were games that really spoke to those feature sets. I'm not necessarily sure that we've seen that, except for maybe Starfield. I don't think we've seen that just yet, and I think that's unfortunate. But I do want to introduce Forte real quick. We got Gaming Forteezy. Yeah. What's up, Forte? Give us a make love to the mic, Forte. Make love to the mic.
No, we're not doing all that.
You're making love right now with that voice.
I love you too.
What's up, Forte? What's going on, man? Like, talk to us, man. Give us your thoughts.
What's up? Oh, what on the show?
On the show, what you thought, how you rated it, Starfield. Let us have it, man.
Okay. So, as a whole, I would actually give the show an 8 out of 10 as a whole. But that's as a whole of everything they show. But the thing is, a lot of that stuff wasn't for me. So as just a variety of content that's coming to Game Pass over the next 12 months, for me it's a 6. For me, it's a 6. Because a lot, as much as I can see the value in a lot of the games that are being shown, for you to dive into, probably 4, maybe 5 are games that I'm actually really truly interested in. And those games, Redfall, of course, the I forget the name of the game, the one with the guns with the faces on them, that was actually a really, really cool game. Forget the name. Yes, the Rick and Morty game. Dude, that was amazing. I was like, yo, I like games like that. So
that was High on Life.
Yeah, High on Life. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed that that trailer in that game. So I was like, okay, that's something I can definitely dive into. Starfield, I was actually shocked about how the combat was. I was expecting it to be a lot slower than that, and it wasn't. And I was like, oh, okay. I can see why they delayed it, because there's still some stuff they need to iron out. But I am at least more intrigued into what that game is. I'm not sold all the way yet, but I'm mostly intrigued in what that game's actually going to be. Mm-hmm. But as a whole, the show was just kind of like meh. It was like the middle of it was like this spiraling thing. Like, okay, we're going from game to game to game, which I think the pacing was amazing. I think that was really, really good. But excuse me. But the biggest problem with this game, this presentation, was all the good stuff. Everything that people were like, yo, that's actually interesting. Yo, that's really interesting. That will come out to 2023. And 2022 we still got half this year left.
Well, we knew that though, Forte.
Well, I knew that was going to be the thing though. I knew that this show was going to be it was going to be nothing but a huge reminder of everything you're not getting this year.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Didn't I tell you that last Wednesday?
Yeah, that's
Game Logic, you did say that. People were upset at you. You were like, I'm coming in with low expectations. People were like, why, Game Logic?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw shade at them. I'm just saying, look, when the Mets tell you that they're behind by 10, you can't expect them to catch up all 10 of those games the next night, right? I mean, it is what it is. And so out of that show, we got 9 games, and I wasn't really picking at the Mets. I was just trying to use them as a relevant example.
That's because Mooch is here.
That's right.
We've got 9 games, right, that are on the slate for this year, right? And to give them a plus, I will say I actually disagree with the notion that that showing the 12 months was a mistake. I mean, what I read out of that as a positive was that, number one, again, a little shaky ground, but I'd say, okay, so this is them saying to us that those games that they showed us today are in the next 12 months. Because a big question to me was still, okay, when you delay a game into the next year, the question is always, okay, are you really delaying the game into the next holiday season? So they kind of conveyed today that that's not their intent. Again, you take that with a grain of salt, because you talk about, what is your overall confidence on Microsoft's ability to predict its production pipeline output. So there's a demographic of consumer that walked into this show, the Game Pass faithful, the Xbox faithful. There are some of them here in chat. Their confidence will not be shaken, right? They will believe on, I would contend blind, but they will believe on faith, right? That Xbox is going to do right. And so there was a need for them to come into the show for those consumers and tell them what they were getting, right? Third party, first party, 55th party, whatever, right? There was a vendor responsibility to convey that. I've gone on and on about, what I want is I want the roadmap. They didn't answer the question about what all 23 studios were doing. Crap Gamer talked about a lot of things that were missing. They've done this before with, when they, last year or the year before, where they just kind of casually dropped that Turn 10 was just starting production on Forza Motorsport, but that Playground was jackrabbiting Forza Horizon 5 into the pipeline with no explanation. So, but there was a responsibility for them to convey that. And I do feel like they did that. And there's things, I put that JPEG in the Discord chat, there's things in the production pipeline that are within that 12 months that weren't shown today. So there's more coming for Game Pass subscribers besides what was shown. But, and as far as what was the 2022 slate, What we got was 9 games, and I say games in air quote because a lot of those are expansions, DLC, free to play games, etc. But there's 9 new-ish things that are due to be delivered this year.
Yeah, and that ultimately is the biggest thing. Like I said, it just ultimately just reminds you of everything you won't have this year is what that show was. But if you take the show at
it's like marriage, Forte.
It is like, I mean,
it's like you ain't getting some tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. I said it out loud.
You did say that out loud. But like I said, ultimately, if you look at the show on its merits as a person that did, like, say, if you walked into the show, didn't know everything that we knew, you didn't know that about all these games being delayed and everything like that, and stuff being moved out of the year 2022, because there is a lot of people that won't know stuff like that. If you're one of those people, you're lucky. You're going to be looking at this show like, oh, a lot of cool games. Show was actually pretty good. I think that, like you said, the pacing was really good of the show. Like I said, in that regard, I give the show an 8 out of 10. It's just that for me as a person that knows all this stuff, it just reminds me of everything that isn't there, and it won't be there this year. So the show just falls kind of flat when it comes to just the overall appeal as a general. So that's why I say 6 out of 10 when it comes to like just me as a person that wants to play some of the games. But there are some really good games in there, and we definitely had some conversations during the stream that we did earlier today about it. It was really, really cool. So I enjoyed the show. It was just more of what I already knew was going to happen due to the stuff that, unless a vow was out there and they actually showed it, that would have been something that would have been like a surprise. But everything that we pretty much thought was going to be there was there.
Yeah, I think 14 did a good job. BRAP,
real quick.
Well, you're gonna get slow-mo in here, but I got to bounce.
Yeah, I got. Oh, okay, Booch. Yep.
I got to bounce. That's why I want to say what's up to slow-mo, what's up to Forte, Beat Money. What's up, guys? Yo, I'll be listening to you guys. The family literally has been waiting me to stop podcast. I told BRAP I'd hop on for 20 minutes. It's almost an hour.
Thank you, Mooch. I appreciate it, man.
No, buddy. Listen, I love coming on the show. I value everyone's opinion. Listen, I agree. I want to just say what Forte said was really, really good. You know, realistically, like I was sitting there, and maybe it was because of the great company on the podcast we were doing the live reactions, but I really had fun with the show. You know, watching games. There was even some of the little indie games that, of course, no one's going to retweet and be like, can't wait for this. But there's some that were really looking like they were going to be a lot of fun. So the show overall was a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, thanks for having me on, BRAP. If I don't feed the family, they're going to get real pissed.
Take them to your family restaurant, you know what I'm saying? And give them an open bar.
Exactly. Yo.
Yeah, Mooch, guys, open bar, right?
Open bar for everybody. Let's go. But yeah, guys, awesome to see everybody. Slow-mo, Forte, B-Money, BRAP, Game Logic, of course, the Great Crusader. We'll catch you guys. I'll catch you guys somewhere, either my podcast or one of yours. But enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And thanks for having me on, BRAP.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. My pleasure, man.
All right, fellas.
No doubt. Real quick, we have 186 people watching. We only have 40 likes. Come on, let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up, everyone. I want to introduce Mr. Slow-mo Backslap, the man of many backslaps. The voice, he is the voice of reason on DPS podcast, which goes live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. He's also a natural-born Souls player. So
I don't know about that one.
You know, Slow-mo actually.
I agree with the first. I don't know about the latter part. But
you definitely are the voice of reason. But you know, Slow-mo, I thought about you today because there was actually an announcement that was actually pretty big with Valorant and I forget the other games that are coming to Game Pass. I actually thought about you. I was like, oh, Riot Games. Thank
League
you.
of Legends and
yeah,
all that stuff, yeah.
I was like,
all
oh,
the Riot game stuff.
Yeah. So Slow-mo, dude. First of all, thanks for joining us, man. Give us your thoughts, man.
Well, first, I want to make. Did I hear Forte say 6 out of 10 now?
He said for himself, 6 out of 10. Yes,
I said 6 out of 10 for myself, but I said the show overall, by just experiencing it, was an 8 out of 10.
Oh, okay. Because I just remember you saying 8 out of 10.
No, I said 8 out. I said 8 out of 10 on our show because that was the overall experience of the show. But it still doesn't change the fact that 90% of the 60% of that stuff we probably ain't even interested in, and it doesn't change. That's the problem. So you know, when it comes to an overall presentation, the show was an 8 out of 10. It just wasn't enough for, you know, me, you, and a lot of other people. I think everybody can look at that show and say, "Oh, it was a really good show," and their overall score will probably end up being higher than the score would be if it was just something that they were saying, "Well, what about if it was just for you, what you were interested in?" Well, for me, it definitely wasn't. It wasn't enough.
Okay. Well, mine is anywhere between a 7 and a 7 and a 5, a 7.5 out of 10. I think they have some games there that I'm interested in playing. They have some games that look good, But the problem is that, and they, I will say this, they definitely listened, and they said this before they went live about, we're going to show you gameplay, because last year we complained about not seeing enough gameplay, and I was one of them loudly saying that. So like, I'm glad they listened about that, but the gameplay they showed just wasn't. There's no wow factor, There's no. What I said in the stream that we did earlier was that, like, when their competition shows their games the first time, people are amazed. People are like, this is why I bought a PlayStation. Like, when people saw God of War gameplay for the first time, minds were blown. The Last of Us Part 2, there were other developers out here saying that's not even real gameplay, and it was real gameplay. Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, like, you list these games, and when we saw those games, they were amazing. And we were just like, yeah, day one, gotta get it. Everyone's saying that. We see these games, and it's like, like, if you're into that kind of game, you're like, oh, okay, I'll check this out. Oh, that looks all right. No, it's not for me. I'm okay. Yeah. And it's just like, there's no, that's it. That's the game. That's the game that says you need to buy an Xbox right now. They had none of that today. And they've lacked that wow factor for a long time. And I think today it was just highlight that yet again. For me, I'll say this again, because like, I love to pat my own back. I told y'all Redfall was Borderlands with vampires.
You did say that. You did say that.
I said it immediately after they showed the CG trailer, and people was like,
man, you were the ones that said it.
I mean, I was telling everyone after I saw the alpha footage.
But
that's what it is.
Even before the alpha footage, I said, this is Borderlands with vampires. The Hispanic guy, that's Mordecai. He even has a bird. He's a sniper rifle and a bird. He's Mordecai. Layla is a siren. Come on, like the little mechanical dog. That's their take on Claptrap. Duh. Like, I'm like, this is clearly Borderlands with vampires. Lomo, you know what you're talking about. Where'd you see that? Where's your sources? I ain't got no sources. I am the source. I'm telling you where it is.
Okay.
And then now we see the gameplay, and it's like, hey, that looks like Borderlands with vampires. People have the audacity to steal my bars after told me I was wrong. How dare you? So I just wanted to get out the way.
Slow-mo, you are extra spicy, by the way. I like that.
I just want to say, I like the way Redfall looked. I'm gonna play it. I bet I said I was gonna play it right off the bat because I knew exactly what it was. So I love Borderlands. I love it. So like, I'm going to play that game. Period. But it's just like, for me, there wasn't enough games that had me like, yeah, I'm definitely going to play that. Like, I know that people hype for Silk Song, but like, I don't care for. Yeah, I don't care for side scrollers. So for me, it's like,
So
and
go ahead.
I was gonna say, Redfall, High on Life, and Flintlock. The 3 games that I saw today that really took away from it, like, yeah, I gotta play those games. But 3 games out of 95 minutes, outside the stuff I already knew, like Plague Tale Requiem, of course I'm gonna play that. Although I'm kind of like, yo, what happened to the release date?
Gotta play it on PC.
Because that was supposed to be this month, and
You're
now
right.
it's like,
it was supposed to be, yeah.
Oh, it's available in 2022. Like, bro, what? When you coming out? Like, that's troublesome. I did like the fact, hey, you broke Kojima out there to say that he's doing something without explaining anything about what he's doing. Typical Kojima, all right, whatever, right? If
Don't
you're
hate
into
on Kojima, he's a genius.
Okay, all right.
They definitely had a good showing from Japan today.
Kojima
yes,
is fake deep.
We're talk about that in a second here, but go ahead.
Kojima is fake deep, okay? He's deep to himself.
Come on, man! Don't slander that man like that. Don't slander him like that.
Look,
he is a genius.
I'm giving you exactly what I will always give you. I told you, Death Stranding was sleep.
You played 2 hours of that game.
It's 3 hours.
I'm sorry, 3 hours. Only 3 hours.
Digital NyQuil, okay? It's
you
boring.
Can't comment on that,
you
sir.
mean Norman Reedus and the Funky Fetus?
I love that.
I never heard that before. I love that.
I'm telling you right now. I said it back then when he left Konami and became Unchained, Unleashed. You never go full Kojima. Don't let him go full Kojima. And here he is, full Kojima, just doing whatever. Hey, you want shit bombs? Let's have shit bombs in the game. Just like what is this?
You only play 3 hours of the game, Slow-Mo. You can't comment on it.
That's all I can stand. So look, all I'm gonna say is that like it's good they got somebody that people who has a cult following, because that cult following is definitely
more than a cult following, sir.
And get anything that he does. Whatever cloud fart game he about to make, they're gonna be all over it. So they got that. But actually, I think what a huge dub is Persona, because now they got Persona 3 and Persona 4. It's not even on PlayStation.
Can we talk about that real quick? Because I do want to go to the Japanese support, because I think Microsoft has made tremendous inroads here. Like, and I said this when Dragon Quest XI was dropped on Game Pass. I told everyone that's a big get, right? And now you have Persona 3, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 Royale, all coming on Game Pass, and then you got Kojima. That is huge.
And Koei Tecmo. Don't forget that Koei Tecmo
a Koei Tecmo game.
Team Ninja.
Yeah, Team Ninja, Wolong Fallen Dynasty. That's huge. I mean, those are big gets. I mean, and that goes back to the one positive I took away from the showcase is that I do think that they spoke to a variety of different gamers. Whether or not those things appeal to me or not is not, they appeal to someone else, right? And that's fine. Right. I think they do that. I think Sony does a good job of doing that. But the Japanese support is huge. Like, Persona is huge, right? Well, that's a huge get.
Let me ask you guys, just because I want to make sure I understand. So Wolong Fallen Destiny, it's weird to me that we say we don't know what Starfield is. I don't. What is that game?
It's a Team Ninja game. It'll be kind of like a Souls-like. That's just how their games are.
But that's I don't want to call it an assumption, but that's our takeaway. But it wasn't message what that game is, right? I don't know.
No. We'll get a little bit more of it later. Yeah. It's just I assume it's going to be a third-person action difficult game. Right. And that's what Neo is. That's what Strangers in Paradise was.
So we got a waving of a brand flag. Yes. We got Kojima, which from what he intoned, what that smelled like to me is whatever he's working on, we're not going to see for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And then Persona 5, which has a lifetime series sales of I think maybe 15 million, and we're getting 3 games out of the series. So I just don't. I mean, it was a good signal. I just don't have it as the big takeaway that
the majority of Persona's sales, though, like that series sales, is 5 specifically.
It is 5. 5 was the biggest.
Like that series was more of a cult following until 5, and it blew up because 5 is a fantastic game. I believe it's like in the top 5 highest rated games of the last generation.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like it was a good signaling. It was definitely a good brand awareness content get. I just don't feel like it significantly moves the needle. I mean, those things have cult followings and fan followings.
I don't think that's the point. I'm trying to. I think the point of this was that they are getting Japanese developers back on board with Xbox. Not so much that it's going to move the needle for an individual user at this very moment, but that they are setting that, because I mean they had no Japanese support in the Xbox One era, right? Yeah, most of them abandoned them by the end. Yeah, so the fact that they're getting these deals, they're bringing Atlas back, and that they're getting the Atlas games that weren't there. They got Octopath Traveler from Square Enix somehow, still not on. I think it's still not on PlayStation.
It's not on PlayStation.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's that again, super weird to me that that's not on PlayStation. That Persona 3 and 4 aren't going to be on PlayStation.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was properly tempering the outlook. In comparison to Zero, it's a good get, but it's not.
No, it's not something that's going to move the needle. But I do think if you go back to the 360 generation and again OG Xbox, where they had more Japanese support, right?
Yeah.
They just
getting back to that.
They're getting it shows that Microsoft understand, they get it. Like we need more of those games on our platform, right?
Yeah,
and I think
now is the Xbox community going to actually play it?
No, I don't think they're going to. And I said this to Crusader earlier. Like I don't think they're. I think some people will play it, but I don't think a lot of people will play it because again,
I think they'll play Persona 5.
Maybe Persona 5.
Because that game has such an air about it that it is good.
It's
know?
aesthetically pleasing.
People will turn the game on, but they're not gonna play it the 100 hours it takes.
I also think
that
it
takes 100 hours at minimum to beat that game.
I spent 120 hours in that game.
I think that that franchise is also going to be excellent for their cloud service because it will play on phones. It's a game that you can more or less play there. Because it's like you're not gonna play an FPS on a phone that well. You know what I mean?
Right.
But a lot of these, a lot of the JRPGs you can more easily play on phones, especially like the turn-based ones or something like Persona, or like they brought like the Danganronpa series. They got Spike Chunsoft, right? And they got like the Danganronpa series, and they got the AI Somnium, right? Like that's another we might not think of it as that huge, but like that's another huge get, especially for their cloud service, because this it might not move the console itself, but it could move that service in Japan because these people can take these games with them on the go because in Japan they have a better 5G infrastructure than we do currently in the United States.
Yep.
Imagine that.
Part of it.
Yeah. And this could help push them because that's like one thing we have to think about. Not all these things are just going to push the console, right? They can push the cloud adoption, which is one way you're going to get people who maybe don't want to get to console, and where mobile is much more popular in Asia. So getting these Japanese developers on board with Game Pass and bringing their games there and being able to play them on your phone is a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah.
And when the developer can develop an Xbox version, which is probably significantly easier than developing for each of the different types of phones. And the Xbox version can both maybe middling sell or sell okay on the Xbox console, and they can get the money for Game Pass, and then more importantly, they can be on people's cell phones, where mobile is big. That's a big deal for Microsoft.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And it's funny you mentioned mobile, but I was going to say this is Slubbo. Slubbo, I think the big winner here was PC Game Pass.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, especially with the Riot Games stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But not just Riot, but the whole Persona series too there.
Yeah, the whole Persona series is there now on PC. That's the
Hey, Slubbo, I got to step away real quick. Can you just take over real quick?
Yeah, I got you.
Thanks,
with Riot, like I was saying during the stream, like people like console gamers don't understand the significance of that. Riot Games is probably the biggest, most popular developer / publisher on the PC platform right now. Their games are primarily just PC games, but out of like top 5 games that are being played, League of Legends and Valorant are right up there. And in regards to that, Valorant itself isn't on a launcher. So essentially, there's not even Steam has Valorant. If you want to play Valorant, you gotta go to their website and download the game from there. This is them on that trash Microsoft store getting Valorant when even Steam doesn't have it. That's a huge gift for them. Getting League of Legends that has it's over like 500,000 people playing that game on a daily basis. It's ridiculous the numbers they have. And Valorant and League of Legends is that big of a game. Riot Games is a huge deal. And if it works out for them, and if Riot continues to go to Microsoft / Xbox on PC in order to get their games out, that's going to be great within the PC platform. I know console gamers don't care about that, but like that's why that's there. It's there because it's showing the work that they're doing on other platforms in order to kind of, get further integration or a higher percentage of the people who play on those platforms to play within their ecosystem.
Well, yeah, PC Game Pass grew by 300% last year, right? And you know what Phil Spencer evidently said internally? It's not good enough. He wants more.
Oh, clearly, yeah. He's jumping for Riot. He clearly wants more.
I think
Blizzard.
And I think the thing
Blizzard.
Blizzard's big too.
I think the thing this also signifies is what is a new vector of the business model in terms of pulling over content that is heavily microtransaction based and offering a and putting a framework of an offer of what that looks like on Game Pass, right? With all of the kind of automated unlocks that you get when the game comes over. So you're not just getting the base, free to play or entry level game. You're getting that plus assault of additional content, which, when you look at that, it's kind of like, why would you, if you're onboarding into that game, why would you onboard anywhere else besides Game Pass?
Right. I don't know if you guys discussed this or not yet, but how did you guys feel about Starfield? Have you guys talked about that yet?
We talked.
We did, yeah.
We talked a lot about it. What did you think, Slimmo? What do you feel like it looks next gen? Because that was a conversation that we had. Like, some of us thought it looked next gen, others maybe didn't. Like, what do you think, man?
I mean, next gen, no, not really.
Come on, man, it looked good, man. No,
I'm not saying it didn't look.
Slow-mo. Come to the good side, man.
Look, bro. Look.
No more hand faces, man.
Yeah, there no more hand faces, but those aren't like next gen, like mocap faces and stuff. Like we've seen better than that.
Sure.
Game design.
But what about the world that you saw?
When you talk about next gen, I don't think about strictly just visuals. I think about game design. I think about scale. I think about like what having much better hardware than Jaguar Core CPUs is going to be able to allow you. And what I see from this, right, is I see a lot of No Man's Sky in this.
Xbox Series S.
Like I see a lot of like, scanning and mining minerals and hey, look, you can go to these 1,000 planets, and even though there's one city on this planet, you can go explore this entire wasteland of stuff. And I'm like, that's clearly procedure generated. That's I mean, is that really next gen? Because that's like we got that with No Man's Sky. We've had that already.
But Slomo, you did see that there's more than one city per planet, right?
Oh yeah, I mean I know that, right? But it's just like to do the whole look at all that you can explore. That means nothing to me. I'm like explore. I mean, like if it's a bunch of if the majority is a bunch of nothing. Look, I've played. I've played Mass Effect.
I'm right there with you, man.
I've played. Thank you, B. Mass Effect 1. You ever go to them planets? And you go to the planes, and it's like the map looks like something. Clearly, the maps will look better than Mass Effect's map is.
Yes, that's the point.
It's a bunch of nothing. It's a bunch of nothing there, and
but
like
Slomo,
3 points of actual interest on that planet.
But Slomo, isn't it fair to say that we don't know enough to definitively say that is the case, right? Like we haven't.
Enrique, I know. I'm just saying. Do not have.
How do you know, Slomo? How do you know?
Full of content.
How do you know?
Come on, Enrique.
How do you know? I'm asking you a question. How do you know?
How do I know?
How do you know it's there?
How did I know that?
I'm not making that.
I know it because I've seen this before. This is how I know it. It's come on, man.
No,
I've never made that claim though. That there was more.
To me, it looked like a much larger scale traditional Bethesda game with an additional wrapper of that kind of procedural generated stuff. Like I got well more than enough of the of a concept of the like developer created cities and areas you're going to go to that are in addition to the other areas where you're going to go and set up outposts and stuff, which it has that like setting out outposts and stuff similarity to No Man's Sky and like that those procedural generated things, but that's in addition to its core. Like these are the different like major settlements you're going to go to where you're going to have big storylines with main missions. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
But look, when you guys are talking about like what makes it next gen, I'm thinking so we're going to see something that we haven't seen before, because what I saw from that so far isn't something. There's nothing in there that I haven't seen before, especially not that gunplay. Well, I can't tell if it was the dude playing the game that sucked, or if the gunplay just was very pedestrian. But like, I mean, like I didn't really expect much of Bethesda on that front anyway. But like, that wasn't next gen. I mean, like, what when you talk about it's next gen, what do you seeing from it that makes you say that's next gen?
But like, if you look at the world though, like when you looked at the world, the environments, that looked next gen to me.
You talk. That's visual.
That looks like they took.
Is that the best looking game you've ever seen,
Enrique? But
it looked pretty damn good. It looked pretty damn good.
That's not the question I asked you, Enrique.
No, but when you consider
the best looking game you've ever seen?
No, but it's a really good looking game.
Have there been better looking games that you? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Let me finish real quick, man. So when you consider the scope of Bethesda's games, right? That's a pretty damn good looking Bethesda game. That's a next gen game.
So you're qualifying it. You're grading it on the curve.
That's exactly what I said earlier.
So we had this conversation already. We're qualifying it on the scope, not so much the like a curve. Like I literally expect games like Hellblade and even God of War with its cross-gen to look better than this because their scope is entirely different. They're far more linear. They're far more compacted. They don't have the sheer amount of like NPC variants. They don't have the sheer amount of characters in general, right? The bigger the game gets and the more like crowds it starts to have and the more areas it lets you go and the more freedom it lets you have in those areas, the more of those extra little polished things on like individual characters you're going to get. So for the scope of Starfield, I think that this looked absolutely insane for what we're getting. Comparing it visually to Hellblade or even Horizon Forbidden West, it does not look as good, but I don't think it was ever going to look as good. Even if it came out 5 years from now, I don't think it would look as good because it physically can't. Like there's some games on the 360 that I think visually have not been beaten in some ways.
Hey, Crusader.
Crusader, you're talking about open world, right? So scale for open world, and you admit like Horizon Forbidden West looks better, right?
Multiple open worlds though. Horizon Forbidden West has like 2 biomes. It does not have a ton of variance within it. It looks like how it looks. And they did a very good job of making sure that they pushed exactly what they were going to do to its limit. But you look at Starfield, and there are several different environments that we've seen today, and they all look very different. Different types of cityscapes that we saw, different types of individual terrains and planets that all looked very different, and that increases the scope tremendously because you're not going to be able to have that same sense or that same scale of the game would never come out. It would never be created.
Or you'd have another Star Citizen and the game would forever be in alpha.
Correct. I mean, it's exactly like Star Citizen.
I mean, and I fully accept everybody's...
I gotta look. I'm not even the biggest Horizon Forbidden West fan here, but I gotta defend Horizon Forbidden West. It got more than 2 biomes,
well,
and it is a massive open world. And look, it's not like either of these games are going to be rendering all those environments all at once.
Correct.
So it's like the fact that hold on. The fact that Starfield has more environments that look worse than Horizon Forbidden West isn't exactly like a dub there. I do respect the fact that there are different environments. If you're going to have multiple planets, whereas Horizon Forbidden West is only on 1 planet, I expect you to have more environments than Horizon. But if we're talking about huge open worlds that look amazing, here is a cross-gen game that looks better.
I think that I would rather play a game with exceptional variance and exceptional just things to do and variety than necessarily a very polished and pretty looking one. That's me personally, though. I am far more excited for Starfield than basically anything I've seen in the last 3 years in gaming.
I mean, isn't Horizon Forbidden West? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Isn't it the total size of that map basically 8 kilometers?
I have zero idea how big the map
is. It's 8 kilometers.
A big map, though.
Roughly. Yeah,
it's a big map. You know,
yeah, it's about 8 kilometers roughly.
It's not a huge procedurally generated planet, but it's a big map.
But I think the scope of Skyrim, not Skyrim, but
I think the scope of Starfield is significantly larger.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And that's my point. You still got to have this installed on someone's freaking console. This is a cloud game.
But Crusader, that was kind of like the thing with, and I go back to Morrowind. Morrowind, the scope of Morrowind, even though it wasn't like visually impressive for the Xbox, the scope of that world was impressive in general.
Yeah. look what they had to do to get it to run. Your Xbox, sometimes when you would have the super long loading screens, that was literally your Xbox soft rebooting to free up memory. Like,
I mean, we're going back into this, and I mean, we spent an extensive amount of time on it before. I think at the end of the day, though, and I take everybody's opinion and perspective as valid to their own wants and needs, but it feels like, look, there are some people who are predispositioned to like the content and like the gameplay vector that I think Starfield is offering. Space exploration, a big sprawling open worldish kind of thing, lots of different places to go. Yes, you might be spending time mining. Some people are into that. And I think we're hearing people who aren't into that, people who don't want to explore 1,000 planets, people who don't want to mine, people who don't want to do stuff that we think has been heavily signaled is going to be included in Starfield, and those people aren't up on it. I think the people who are up on it don't put the entire provenance of the game's, success or failure on its graphical fidelity. So I think at the end of the day, there are just types of games, and maybe Starfield is one of those types overall that there's a body of people that aren't going to like it. I think in general, like I said before earlier in the show, in regards to the market, I think the game's going to sell fine, and or there are going to be people who onboard back onto Game Pass or into Game Pass for the first time to get a taste of Starfield. I don't think that the game's going to, have a ton to worry about in terms of being, commercially successful or a failure.
Yeah, let me get some super chats here. Nerafit with the $2 super chat says 1,000 planets reminds me of 200 Fallout endings. That's funny. And then we have Ola Maji Raji. The $5 super chat says Horizon has one of the most varied environments, from mountains, forests, beaches, cauldrons, even alien tech. Lack of variance is not a critique. All right. Thank you for that super chat, sir.
I don't think anybody said lack of variance. I think what they're talking about was scale.
The comparison of variance, I should say.
Yeah.
The scale of how much variance you're going to have is the difference.
Yeah. So what's interesting? I do want to go to because I did put up a poll earlier when we started the show, and we have 300 votes right now, and so I posed a question: how would you rate the Xbox show? A, B, C, D. 37% of the people, a majority, have rated a C, which is kind of interesting. I think that's kind of where I think most of us kind of have rated the show, except for I think Forte, who's not here anymore, but he rated it like a 6 out of 10. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people at that 7 out of 10 range. So,
what's weird to me.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
What's weird to me is a lot of. How many of the opinions that we've heard are up on Redfall and down on Starfield? That just seems, it's just a strange dissonance to me from what I would have expected. I don't.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like I would have thought more people would have been like down on Redfall and up on.
Because like for me, Redfall's also a next gen only game.
And but Redfall doesn't look next gen to me though at all.
No, like, Redfall didn't look next gen to me either. Not like Starfield did, and I cannot explain quite why. It looks like a next gen Bethesda game. If I'm going to be honest
I think that's why though, Crusader.
And maybe it's because of how into Bethesda games I am that I'm seeing it that way.
Well, I think that's both our perspectives. Like I said this earlier. I am Bethesda bias. BB as you call it. Like I am. And so yeah, I mean, it looks like a next gen Bethesda game, and not Fallout, but Redfall didn't look like next gen to me, at least. I don't know.
For me on Starfield, I'm just much more interested in the space combat and the exploration and some of the other factors than I am about the facial designs and facial maps. I'm not saying that those things aren't important. I'm just saying for me personally, they're not as high on my list.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. So it's interesting, like space. So is this a game that kind of falls in between like Star Citizen and what's the other game that everyone's comparing this game to?
Well, they say No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. Like, is this game that kind of fall between those games?
I mean, in my mind, in terms of design and the objective it's trying to achieve, I think. It's pointed in that Star Citizen direction. I think its overall design objective and goal exceeds No Man's Sky, particularly if you think about the way, like, all the stuff that No Man's Sky has been, I mean, and I've said before, I overall think No Man's Sky is a success story, but all that stuff has been woven in right to the foundation of its content over a number of years. It started off fairly threadbare. And so comparing what No Man's Sky is today to Starfield, I don't think is really an apples to apples comparison either. But I think overall Starfield is definitely pointing in a direction, to exceed what No Man's Sky is. I mean, while the first-person shooter gameplay may not have looked that good, it conveyed to me that there is an objective in design that exceeds what, say, No Man's Sky offers.
Yeah.
For first-person shooter combat.
Yeah. Let me grab the super chat real quick. Slobo, I think this super chat's for you, actually. Raji with the $2 super chat says, I was not impressed with black hair in Starfield.
I barely saw it. I was looking for it. I was looking for it. Barely saw any of it. So that usually is kind of a telling sign that there's not much black hair
So
representation.
What are the options,
in the game,
Slobo?
so, huh?
What do you think the options are?
I think the options is bald head, which we saw with one of the NPCs. Other option is going to be an afro that looks like black cotton candy stuck on a bald head.
We saw braids, right?
We did see some very interesting looking cornrows. Those are usually always there. They usually resemble hot dogs laid on that head, but this is probably. I mean, I think it's going to be better looking than that. So
my god, we're fucking tears, Slobo.
Look, you know how I am with this.
Yo, my bad. Slobo did a video about this, by the way.
Do not give us the like your basically 2 days worth of work on black hair and then spend the rest of your time working on all the other grains of hair that it's like it's not equal whatsoever. I already know I'm gonna get less options than everybody else. You at least make my options look good though. So I do want to right?
Exactly.
So that's the big deal. Outside of that, the character creator looked pretty decent. It looked better than most, with the options of how you can change things. Just that there's always hair that is the part that never looks as quite as good as everything else. And I know why. Like as Enrique said, I did the whole video on it. The why
it was actually a very good video, by the way.
Hair can cripple a game engine because of we all have 100,000 individual, most of us, if you're going through male pattern baldness, I'm sorry for you. You don't have that many, but the rest of us have over 100,000 hairs on our head, right? And if you try to render 100,000 hairs on one character's head, you're going to cripple your game engine.
But so it's just when you got a console that eats monsters for breakfast, you could do it.
Oh no, you still can't even do it with that. But you have to kind of do something what Insomniac did with Spider-Man on PS5, where they dynamically add more strands of hair depending on how close or far away the character is from the screen, which is a really cool process. I think most, if you're not going to do something like Unreal Engine with MetaHuman, you should go that route. But if not, go back to the old school hair cards route that they've been doing for the past 2 generations, which has a varying degree of looking good versus looking like a plastic helmet put on somebody's head. So, I don't think that Bethesda is going with the plastic helmet route, but clearly based off of what I saw, they are not. They're still using hair cards, which means it could look great or it could look like a lot of stuff that we've seen already, which is terrible.
Yeah, and they're still using the lockpick engine too. They brought that forward into Starfield, which I was a little. It was just kind of funny when I saw him doing the lockpicking of the weapons cache. I was like, freaking A, man! These guys mofos are still picking locks.
At least it's a new mini game.
Hey, I love the lockpicking though. I do like that. The lockpick is great. So,
I would say this about Starfield. I went from because I'm more of a when it comes to Western RPGs, I'm more of a BioWare guy than a Bethesda guy. I don't like the way they do storytelling.
You're about old BioWare though.
World scan boxes, old BioWare, not new BioWare.
Not
new
BioWare.
Who likes new BioWare, right?
That's like Skinny Luther versus Fat Luther. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. But
Sorry, man.
The game went from I'm a pass to I'll give it a shot. So it did go up a little bit in my book.
Okay.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and I'll even say, while I've been detracting from some of the arguments I've heard, and I there are some things, and this is just because of me. I have some particular tastes with regards to, flight sims, space exploration type games. There are little small nitnoids that I saw that I've got to wait to see to determine if I'm going to get on board or not. It was very interesting that they have a flight model in the game and they have space combat in the game. But being a flight space sim guy, I am very particular about that. The flight model that I saw did not convey to me that it's going to have flight control system and HOTAS support. So those are the type of things where if it's the freelancer mouse and keyboard style controls, and like the Battlefront style controls that they had, that might be a reason for me to not get in that end of the pool and just stand outside and observe. But we'll see. But those are nits and particularities that are just to me.
Yeah. So so before we wrap up the show, what do you guys think we're gonna see on Tuesday? Because Tuesday is gonna be another, I think, 90-minute or 95-minute show.
90.
Is it 90? Okay, so is it gonna be more 90. Like developer deep dive? Do we get more Starfield stuff?
What do you guys think? Developer interviews.
Oh, we'll have more Starfield.
And more Starfield,
yeah. So what do you guys think? B-Money, I want to go to you, man. What do you think we're gonna see, man?
Just more deep dives. I think they already said that. That they were just deep diving on some stuff. I'm sure there'll be some additional Game Pass announcements that are added to Game Pass, but I don't really expect to see any additional huge announcements or anything like that. I feel like today was that opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
What I mean?
They had one or two last year when they did this last year. I wouldn't be surprised if the Age of Empires for console gets announced tomorrow or on Tuesday. That's coming. We just don't know when.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if that was announced either, Crusader. You're right, because it is rumored to be coming to consoles. So, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that like B said. I don't think I'd expect any new. I mean, they put their slate up right in that snapshot. That slate included things that were not discussed today.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't personally have a lot of high confidence that there will be anything announced that isn't in this picture. But I would hope that maybe there'll be some discussion of things that are in this picture that weren't shown today.
Halo will be there.
Yeah,
I can guarantee it.
And they do have Halo.
Well, they did. Yeah, they mentioned Halo. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Halo had a big teaser for June 14th back in May.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that a lot of the things that were kind of sprinkled lightly today, that I feel like what that game wasn't conveyed. They would spend a little time on that, like Naraka Blade Point. I don't know that we got a lot out of that. That's not a new game. Yeah. It's been on Steam for a year. Still, though, again, if you're messaging to Xbox players, not so much the PC players, you would expect to already know about it. I would hope that there would be some information for people to, know what they were getting on Xbox.
Yeah, that's a great point. What about you, Slomo? What do you think, man? What do you think we'll see on Tuesday?
A lot of deep dives and talk with devs, more Starfield, maybe a little bit more Redfall, and then the stuff that like I heard that missed the cut from the show, which I'm surprised, like something like Warhammer got cut for this show, but they kept scoring. Like who the heck wants to see that?
Yeah, like I gotta be honest with you, like the whole the alien penis stuff, like I'm not about that.
The umbilical cord pull out. I almost, if I wasn't streaming live, I would have turned it off right then and there. But like Warhammer, I think
I think Warhammer is a bigger deal than Scorn, in my opinion. But
I agree. But we'll see stuff like that they ended up like that having enough time to keep in. And they'll discuss that. Maybe they'll address the whole Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo thing. Because if you even look at that big graphic they got, both of those games aren't there. Now I don't know if that's like due to the contract they can't speak on it.
Certainly that.
Yeah, if that's the case, they won't discuss it on Tuesday. But I think a lot of the little stuff that they kind of felt like, not too many people are going to care about this, are going to be there. Considering how I feel like the middle of the show was a lot of like indie stuff that people like myself are interested in, but most like gamers who just only care about AAA games don't care about. I mean, like if this stuff didn't make that cut, then I don't know. I think it might be for like the hardcore to watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this, and I have this personal philosophy right in software development that like I don't have I don't have conversations with customers about things that I'm not asking their opinion on, right? So, given like some of the takes that we've heard today about Starfield, and given that there is still probably, maybe as much as a year right before the game drops, do you expand on what was shown today for Starfield on Tuesday, or do you let that lay fallow, go quiet, let the team work, and then pop up with something when you're a little bit closer to release?
I think they may give us a little bit of an extended version of this and talk a little bit more about specific things, like maybe pause it on a screen and talk about like the perk system a little bit. I don't think we'll get much new footage, but maybe more explanation as to what they showed.
But I mean, would you personally, if you were the decision maker, would you show more about Starfield right now?
So, I mean, it's typical Bethesda. Like, whenever they'd show Fallout, they would show it, they'd do it on stage. Then they would go and they'd show some additional snippets and maybe longer bits of gameplay of what they showed on stage to IGN, and they'd do an interview with IGN, and they would pause stuff and talk about it. So
I'll be right back.
They do.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try and shape this one more time. Full on aware of Bethesda's history, not really what I'm interested in.
Oh, they're not changing tomorrow's showcase based on what was said or Tuesday's showcase based on what's said today. Like whatever happened on Tuesday is set in stone from today. Like they're not going to change it overnight.
Right. So my question is whether you change it overnight or whether you came into this with it or not. Would it have been your plan to do 2 days worth of Starfield coverage?
Probably.
Okay. What about the rest of you guys?
I mean, I don't know. I maybe, yeah. I feel like Todd Howard likes to talk, so I feel like you would give him a roundtable to do that. I feel like Tuesday would probably be that showcase. I mean, like I just like, why else would you have a day 2? You know, I feel like a day 2 would be dedicated towards that game, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. You know, why else would you have a day 2? I guess, you know, unless it's about news that your fan base might want to hear, and I feel like that's Starfield, but I could be wrong. Yeah,
I don't know. I think my personal feeling would have been just to do the one day, because your Bethesda faithful are gonna be there, right? I don't know that this is a thing. I don't know that today is the day that I do the dance to try and pull people over the fence.
Yeah, go ahead, B.
Yeah, I'll probably shelve it. You know, after today, you show it once, and then as you're getting closer to launch, you know, show it again. Possibly doing like an actual mission or something. You know what I mean? You got to rope people in. I think a lot of people who are on the fence or, you know, have the questions about what the game is or, you know, what you do in the game, you know, that still has to be portrayed to them. So I think you shelve it for now and then at a later date, show it again.
Are you guys expecting a lot of third party on Tuesday?
No.
Because I'm not at all.
I'm not at all.
They didn't do much third party at the extended one last year. It was almost all first party.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I'm expecting most of the stuff that they showed with first party to just be shown longer. That's my expectation for Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Crusader. I don't think they're going to show third party. I think it's going to be, you know, just an extension of what we saw today with some, you know, developer conversation. Like, and I think about
I expect like Josh Sawyer to come out and talk about Pentiment. Talk about it.
Yeah, and I think about, you know, you say that, but I think about, you know, the when they did the thing with oh god, what was it the last Age of Empires, where they talked about how you can build the what's it called? I forget what it was.
The trebuchet.
Yeah, and people are like, "Oh my god, what is this?" So
that's what I'm expecting from.
Yeah, I expect that. Yeah, exactly. I expect that. So. Yeah,
it's just a weird play. Like I mean, right now, as I said today, I question why have a second day. Right, like they're big gets.
Well, it's for people like you, Game Logic, that like the deep dives.
Yeah, but I don't need a deep dive for stuff coming out next year, and the stuff that's coming out this fall, I don't necessarily feel like warrants or needs a deep dive.
I think they want to set up a tradition of always doing this weird extended showcase, and they're in a weird year where like they don't want to skip it because they did it last year, and like they don't want to just skip a year. So I think that I think it is what it is. You know, I think we're going to see more of the Forza Horizon DLC, more of the Forza Motorsport, more Pentiment. As Dusk. Does Dusk Falls launch today? Or is that later, like next week?
Oh, I don't know.
I think we'll see that because that's first party publishing. That's publishing, so it's first party owned IP. I think we see more because I think they're treating the extended showcase more like the press tour that they would normally do. But instead of doing it in the press tour, because that's difficult because you're not all in one convention center and you can just send an envoy from press station to press station, it's being done as the show, like a second extended showcase instead. It's like the same style of E3, just they have to like put it together a little differently.
Yeah, it's just the way I've been looking at this thing, for today's show, and I guess this follow on too, is, to me, what I've been trying to evaluate is, does it, they need it to be something that helps them, right? The risk is that it could hurt them. And then, just as much of a risk is that it falls flat and does nothing. Day 2 of coverage, I just don't see them pulling themselves out of the consensus that today's show was a C. I don't see them pulling themselves up by their bootstraps by a second day of coverage. And I just wonder if they're going to, do things that hurt them. I already mentioned last week how, having a show that's a lot of developer interviews, which I personally like, but a lot of the gaming community won't. And a lot of the gaming community will wade into that, not having read the headlines, not having read the information, and will walk away with, negative feedback and commentary. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I just don't have a warm fuzzy that it's going to be an uplifting experience for them, for the brand on Tuesday, but we'll see.
So, what, Game Logic, it's funny you mentioned that because it made me think about, I think you've said this before, and I think B said the same thing. When I think about Sony, right, and I think about how they present things, I get a vibe from Sony. It's like they're positioning themselves as like almost like a luxury brand in a way, right, with the PlayStation, right? You get these high-end experiences, not just high-end experiences with games, but in terms of presentation for game shows. Does this kind of reinforce that belief that you have, Game Logic? And I know you said that before because we've talked about it.
Yeah, I think from a brand image management perspective, I think Sony tries to be a marquee property and kind of Apple-esque, right, in the Apple of the electronics industry, gaming. They're way back in the day, like when I bought hi-fi stereo components and other things, right?
Betamax.
The Sony brand, the Sony branded stuff was always typically more expensive, right? I feel like for a long time that's been their brand and their culture.
The Vega TVs,
and then with Xbox, people are going to get angry at me saying it, but I personally feel, even though I feel like the show overall was a C, I think Microsoft did what they needed to do today, which is they didn't need to do things to convince the naysayers, right? They needed to do things to restore confidence in people who are subscribed to Game Pass. And I think what they showed today was
throw more content into Game Pass, by the way.
Right. They showed a roadmap of content that they're saying is going to be there over the next 12 months. And I think for a Game Pass subscriber, if there's a Game Pass subscriber on the edge, that would be their concern. That Game Pass subscriber already knows they're whiffing for this fall, right? Is now hyper concerned, right? If they're looking for their exit strategy about, what is a reason for them to stay. And I think that's what today's message was about. It wasn't about people buying Xboxes. It wasn't about, the only thing that they could have done better that I was hoping for was that they would have some type of contingency plan and pipeline to make up for the Starfield and the Redfall cancellation. And they didn't really have that. But again, that would have been a matter of they would have known that before coming into the show, right? And so what they did was they laid the tracks for what is the next 12 months, and I don't know if it restored confidence for people who are subscribed to Game Pass, but it hit some people who are subscribed who, kind of know what they're getting over the next 12 months, which I will say not super, positive, but looks like an upwards ramp, right? From here to next spring, summer-ish, it looks like things kind of get better and better and better.
So B, so what do you think about that, man? Like, you think about, because you've been very vocal about Jim Ryan and him letting like him talk about the games, doing the talking. Like, what do you think about that, man? Like, do you think that do you see like the difference, in terms of the presentations?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you understand right off the bat that the presentations are just set up differently. I mean, like when you look at a Sony presentation, it looks like they're presenting, Hollywood blockbuster movies. I mean, and Xbox, I mean, it looks like a typical game show. It doesn't look, like they're holding the titles up on a pedestal. I was actually super surprised that there was not as much talking this year. They kind of got like right to the games and showing gameplay and stuff
that was actually a good cadence, by the way. I thought that was actually a positive.
Yeah, because they would typically, talk for 10, 15 minutes, and it's like, yo, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So they did switch it up a little bit, so I do appreciate that. And, like Logic said, they showed a good roadmap, for the next 12 months. But just for me, like, I just expected something different, and I guess that's my own fault.
No, I mean, that's not your fault. I mean, I kind of felt the same way too. Like I expected something different, but I just feel like I'm starting to see like that we're seeing what we're seeing is two companies going in kind of different ways or presenting their products differently. Where I think Microsoft is kind of presenting themselves as the, maybe a one-stop shop for all gamers, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I see Sony as presenting themselves as, like Game Logic said, like the Apple, right? The premier platform to have premier experiences, right? It's like, yes, the PlayStation is the champagne room, for lack of a better example. I mean, and that's not to say that what Microsoft's doing is bad. I think we're seeing a divergence here or a difference in terms of how these companies are presenting themselves, and it's interesting because, again, I go back to, for me at least personally, I go back to Microsoft and 12 teraflops and, velocity architecture and
that's why you would think that the presentation would be different. Because at the start of generation, they kind of set the table like, hey, this is what you should expect.
Yeah,
like we have this console. It's graphically better than any other console that's ever been on the market. It's super powerful. Eat monster for breakfast. All this nonsense. They showed us Hellblade 2. Everybody goes crazy. Like, so how beautiful the game looks. So you're like, okay, and then you see Microsoft start to buy all these other studios, and you look at the pedigree of those studios, like, oh, okay, yeah, Double Fine does pretty good work. I'm sitting here, they do good work, and they give Bethesda, it's like, okay, with the Microsoft backing, it's like, oh, they should be putting together some really good stuff, so you have this, mindset that like, okay, Microsoft is really going to bring it, and then we start to get to these presentations, and it's like, that's not what we expected. And maybe that's our own fault as the gamer. They kind of set the table, and then we kind of took it somewhere else, on our own, and that's their.
But B, is it though? Like when you look at, and I go back to the OG. And by the way, for those who don't know, I was an Xbox Live beta tester. But that goes back to the OG Xbox. I've said this on this show many times. The 360, the OG Xbox, they talked about the feature sets of the console, the hardware, right? And they showed games that took advantage of that, right?
Yeah, but Brad, I've done the math for you guys, right? And I don't disagree with you that from a brand and what I keep going back to a production pipeline perspective, it should be delivering more. But for my projections, that's going to be 2025. Right. If in 2024, 2025, we walk out of a showcase and we don't see all 23 studios delivering one game per quarter that's of, relatively marquee value, then the promise will have been entirely broken, despite the numerous chances that they've been given. But from where they are now, I don't have firm hopes of them arriving at that place until 2025.
Logic, do you think that this new the way that they show the games as far as like the 12-month outlook, do you think that's what they're going to do going forward?
No, I mean, I still feel like that's a stopgap measure, right? I think whether they're revealing it to customers or not, I firmly believe that there is somewhere there's a bunch of butcher paper up on a wall, and there's little pins, right, or markers with a timeline and a roadmap of like when people are supposed to be delivering stuff. And, you know, those pieces get moved around. And I think eventually that's what will be laid out. I think what they chose to show of that today that they had confidence in, and that they had stacked third-party content into as contingencies to cover for first-party stuff that isn't there. I think that's what they showed today, and I think they felt that their best way of conveying a restoration of confidence was to lock it to that 12 months. Again, because I felt like that what that message is that, hey, for those of you who are curious about the games that we delayed, whether or not we're going to delay them further into holiday, like they did with Halo Infinite, right? Halo Infinite was delayed. We didn't know where it was going. We were told the next year, right? But then, you know, people were hoping, you know, spring, summer, earlier. But what did they do? They, of course, inevitably delayed it to the fall, which is not an unusual occurrence in the game industry, that once it slips a year, there's a strategic decision of, is it the best thing for us to just let it go until the holiday season? But I think what they tried to do today was they tried to convey 12 months, because out beyond that, it gets riskier and riskier to start promising to people that that stuff's going to be there. But eventually all that's going to culminate into the rolling thunder, right, of a 2024, 2025 period of time when, you know, 30 studios, if the Activision acquisition goes through, with 30 studios are going to be delivering those, you know, one AAA game, you know, per quarter of, you know, what we hope would be relatively high value.
You guys think that they should have warned people ahead of time that like everything that they were going to show today was just from June of 2022 to June of 2023?
Yes.
He did say temper expectations, right?
They did not say that. This is one of the times they didn't say temper.
I mean, how many articles were written? How many podcasts were went live with all the predictions? And this is like the one time, because like Xbox is so weird. And the times when they tell you not to temper your expectations, you're like, why didn't you? And then the times when they tell you to temper your expectations, you're like, what the fuck? Why? You know, like. This is one where they probably absolutely, I don't want to say probably, they absolutely should have told us this is the next 12, don't expect much more than the next 12 months. Because we had two things that aren't going to fall in the next 12 months in this show. We had Silk Song, which is getting a demo in the next 12 months. And we had Kojima, which Lord knows when that's happening.
Yeah, what's a little worrisome is it's not entirely difficult for me to imagine that they didn't tell us that, because they didn't make that decision until, you know, a few nights before the show, before everything finally came together, and that they were juggling contingencies right up until the end. But I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like even if that was the case, if they even if like it was like a week ago, they decided, all right, we're only going to show games that are going to be either in early access or launching between now and June of 2023. That could have been cleared up in the Phil Spencer tweet, because he could have tweeted it out, and then every games media publication from GameSpot to IGN would have made an article about it. It would have been all over Twitter. It would have been all over the podcasts that have been doing multiple shows and predictions for the past week, and it would have been a well-known thing before we went into the show.
Hey, I think there's definitely a conversation to be had about whether, you know, when you talk about risk, you know, how Microsoft is playing and how well they're playing it in terms of what they're conveying to customers, and whether they are making very big bets and then not delivering.
Yeah.
So did I wonder if they're, you know, like based on the showcase, like in, you know, we talked about the showcase maybe not appealing to, well, actually the showcase appealing to a variety of different tastes. If that's their pitch, like, hey, you know what, like Netflix, right? Here's all this content that could maybe it's about casting a wide net, right? You cast a wide net, you catch more fishes, right? And maybe that's their play.
And I feel like that's what's being messaged, right? Because Phil is complimentary to PlayStation, right? And I feel like, maybe I'm just projecting or interpreting this, I feel like what he's saying is, look, maybe this is what I'm saying. Look, if you like the SIE style, like highly narrative driven, heavy cinematic, you know, near linear wide path type of game, then PlayStation does that great. We encourage you to go do that. If you want a smorgasbord of content, right, of a lot of different stuff and a lot of different variety, then here's where it is, and it's in Game Pass, right? So that you can partake of that all-you-can-eat kind of buffet rather than buying every game individually. Not saying that that's a concept that everybody agrees with, but I just feel like that's kind of the interpretive brand messaging that I get.
But that goes back to the whole monster, the whole Xbox Series X thing that you eat some monsters for breakfast. Like, why,
Well, right, and what I'm saying is like, you tell people that till 2025, right? And then when you've got your 23 or 30 studios, right, delivering on that production pipeline, then you change your branding script.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. I don't know. Anyhow, final thoughts, anyone, before we wrap up?
No? Hope that they show some of the further out games at Gamescom.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right? So, we'll see. Look, big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Really appreciate everyone coming out and hanging out with us tonight. Please hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. Want to give a big shout out to Crap Gamer and the Mooch, who joined us today, and Crusader, man. Hey, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate you coming on, and hey, man, we got to get you back on again soon, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Please let everyone know where they can find you, man.
You can find me at Crusader3456 on Twitter, where I just kind of talk about gaming. I'm in the middle of a PS3 binge right now, so you're going to see me talking a lot about games from there. Just finished Sly Cooper 1 and 2, playing through the remaster of the original God of War right now. So yeah, you can find me there. I also do a lot of leak stuff over on r/gaming leaks and rumors. I do a lot of the mega threads you see, the big mega threads of lists of projects, working on a PlayStation one right now. So, yeah.
No doubt, man. Thank you, man. We definitely got to get you back on BRAP. Sooner than later, sir. Sooner than later. So
sounds good.
And then we also have Game Logic. Game Logic, always a pleasure, man. Are we gonna get some Halo tonight? No, maybe.
No, probably not tonight. I got my own podcast.
Come on.
And then I got some Call of Duty Vanguard live stream planned after that.
No, I hear you, man. But
tomorrow we can definitely queue it up for tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely got to do some Halo Infinite. You know what's funny, man? Like, I've actually been playing Halo Infinite a lot with you. The last 3 weeks, man. That's kind of what I've been playing.
We've been playing a lot more than the people who say that we hate on the Xbox brand because of bias.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that is that we have, right? The same people that are saying that we're biased, we're actually playing the game that you championed, and then you're not playing. So imagine that. But Game Logic, people know where they can find you, man. So
yep, absolutely.
But thank you, man. And then we got my man Slow Mo Backslap, who's the voice of reason. The voice of reason on DPS, man.
You stop.
Yeah. What did he say?
I said the only voice you need to hear. Like that.
Wow.
I'm joking. No. I'm joking.
Actually, some weeks I feel like that though.
Hey, well, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. No, great show, guys. You can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter by the same name, Slow Mo Backslap. I'm actually gonna go live with my second part of my second live stream for The Quarry, which I started.
Hey, Slow-Mo, I had to leave, dude.
Yesterday morning.
I'm sorry, I had to leave.
You got scared in 2 seconds, man.
No, I'm sorry. Nope. The carcass and then the whole thing. Nope. I got to go. I'm sorry. I had to go.
Hey, look, it's not that scary. Well, at least not so far.
For you, it's not.
It hasn't ramped up yet. You know how like some of these games, like
it hasn't ramped up.
Like no, not at all. And like the crazy stuff hasn't started.
That game will give you diarrhea.
But no, I'm probably gonna do that tonight, and check out Damage Per Second podcast this Thursday on my channel with Game & Forte, who was here earlier, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're probably going to get into a lot of arguments about the show that we just discussed, as well as whatever else pops up throughout the week. So come on through and check us out. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's a great show, man. Great show as always. Be Muddy,
sir.
Let everyone know. Let everyone know where they can find you, man.
They can find me everywhere. Same name, Be Money 101. We had a great show. Appreciate everybody's opinions. Starfield still looks trash.
Oh, come
on. We see you boys next week, man.
Nah, we're gonna discuss this, man, on Wednesday, bro.
Speak your truth, sir. Speak your truth.
Right.
We are going to talk about this, B Money.
We're gonna break it down, man.
We're going to hash this out. We're going to hash this out, sir.
Let's do it.
We're going to hash this out because the fans know that, well, I don't know what the fans know, but look, we're going to talk about this on Wednesday. So, no doubt, B. But look, big shout out to everyone in the live chat again. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And to our guests, Game Logic, Crusader, Crap Gamer, and the Mooch, and to B Money 101, and Slow-Mo, and Gaming Forte, who were here with us. Look, hit the like button. And look, just enjoy gaming. Have fun gaming the rest of the weekend. I might be live actually on Tuesday streaming the Xbox show. And if not, we'll be back live Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. So on that note, we are out. Have a great weekend, everyone. Peace.